Wind, care to comment?
Oh, real wind. Yeah, it's fake wind, but it's a real as in it uses it literally changes the wind in the game based on the geological location of where the sim is set. So if you went to like an island that's supposed to be tropic and things like that, it actually like you sail according to wind
All
and
right, I
coordinates
asked
and move your
because
sail. Pretty
the difference
cool,
between
actually.
Microsoft Flight Simulator and the Apple product was that the Apple product used mathematical formulas for wind and aerodynamics. It's more labor intensive and stuff like that. But I like that they do that. It's a huge challenge. And I
Yes.
was part of Second Life back in the day, so it's nice to see that over here.
A lot of people, I mean, a lot of people are, and they started, like I said, it's the OG metaverse, and so a lot of people did start in Second Life and then fell off. A lot of major companies were there. Siege Sinai was there, Coke was there. Like there were a lot of major companies. MIT had some classes there. I think there's life being breathed into it every day, though. I mean, we're talking about 45,000 people on the grid at any given time as well. Wall Street Journal just did a whole week long, I'm sorry, a month long series. Wall Street Journal, they just ended their last one a couple of weeks ago, so they talked to the creators of Second Life, and so I think, I don't know, we're getting people in there, and that's, we videotape it, so at least there's that. They don't have to go
Do
in.
they still have Linden dollars? I know
Yes,
back in the day, that's still a thing.
they do have Linden dollars. Now, interestingly enough, having the inside knowledge, having worked with the decentralized application Upland, I know for a fact that Dirk and Edon are very good friends with the guys down there in Santa Monica and have conversations with them often. So
Santa Monica.
it's my,
Who
I
do
mean,
we know in Santa Monica?
yeah, I mean, I truly believe that there is a future in which Second Life is tokenized. I'm serious. And if that's the case, then that's a game changer. But I
Man, back
really
in the
do
day,
think
we
that.
tried to one of the companies I worked with, extra works with me on it now, but one of our founders lived down the street from one of the Second Life founders,
Mhm.
and we tried to hook up and get a digital silver backed and gold backed uh, currency. This is before Bitcoin.
Right.
Get that hooked into the Linden dollars. We just never made any progress with that, but they totally need to hook that into a cryptocurrency system. Get that flowing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the idea of backing it with silver. I even mentioned, I think at a meeting I was just at this fractal meeting, I said there was a guy who was talking about. I didn't know you were here though. And then I found out that you are actually a member. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. The silver, the receipt for the silver bars, because that's where I see it. I mean, that's where I see the true utility in non-fungible tokens, right? I don't see it in the gaming side. I see it in actually being a non-fungible token that gets you a backstage pass to a concert. 'Cause I'm about music and art. That's where I come from, my background. So a backstage pass, the same thing the Comedy Store just did, right? With their 100-year whatever, right? There's a lot of swag, physical swag, that people got to walk away and passes to get tickets at a discounted prices for life, like those kind of things, and non-fungible tokens that represent deeds to houses and physical land. And with JP Morgan going into Decentraland, I definitely see that they're probably moving in the same direction, right? They're having the same thoughts. So
So there is a
interesting.
company doing something like that, where they're using like NFTs, like in a mobile wallet, combined with GPS data
Oh, cool.
to prove that you're the person who's actually like at the venue, as like a two-factor authentication. So it's not just having the NFT on your phone, it's also having like I said, like the GPS data showing that you're the person actually there, like at the gate,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
that they know that it's not just somebody who bought the ticket or bought the backstage pass, that you're actually like the person who's physically there, as a way of proving that it's not just somebody who bought the ticket or bought the backstage pass who isn't physically there, right? And then whoever can essentially prove those two factors, right? Prove they're physically there and prove they have the ticket, you know. And then that NFT gets burned, you know, when they go through the turnstiles, essentially, right? When they go into the
Right.
concert.
Okay. Cool.
So there is some company working on that we talked to a while ago, that I know that's doing that. And they wanted to use it. They were working with a big like concert promoter that does big festivals and so forth, right? As kind of like, that was the way of them authenticating it. And then you don't have the issue. So I used to work with AEG, the Anschutz Entertainment Group that owns the Staples Center and so forth.
Oh.
And that was a big problem they used to have, was
Yeah.
that people would show up, people would sell multiple tickets, right? They would sell the same ticket 5 different times on StubHub or whatever, right? And then nobody really knew, and this is the problem AEG had, which was nobody really knew who the rightful owner was of that ticket, right? And then people would come up to the you know, the box office and say, well, I bought these tickets, but they don't work, right? And so they were trying to figure out, and that's not connected to this music promoter, this concert promoter that we were talking to, but it's, you know, it's a reoccurring problem, right? Like every Lakers game or every Kings game or whatever, multiple people would show up with multiple tickets, right? And so how do you kind of create that 2-factor or even 3-factor authentication to make sure that you're the only person in those seats? So anyway, but like I said, one of the GPS kind of like coordinates is a 2-factor. It's definitely one way of trying to solve that problem.
No, that's cool. And then also it really does, I mean, was that just eliminates scalping, right? Which is, I mean, a lot of people, if you've never been to a concert, it's actually a violent kind of, it's clutter, it creates an aggressive environment in the front of any concert like that. I remember back in the day before COVID, I went to concerts. Now they're all gonna be get your NFT, watch it on your big screen. But
I just went to one an earthly day.
Yeah, I used to be in the mosh pit and everything. I'm an ex-metal DJ though, so
Hey, I was
like
behind the drum set.
I did not say that.
I was behind
Very
the drum
nice.
set, so
Oh,
you
I
didn't
love
have
a
to.
drummer. There you go.
Got plenty of room back there.
Nice.
Yeah, I went to my
Nice.
first show on last Saturday, for the first time in like 3 years.
Cool.
It was an Ozzy Osbourne like cover band.
Oh, love me some
myself.
Ozzy. I used to go to Ozfest all the time. I love me some Ozzy.
Yeah, no, I just happened to
really
I was
do.
walking on the street and I heard like somebody blasting Ozzy, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Excuse my language.
Yeah.
And I wandered in, and it was a band called Ozzy, which is
Cool.
like an Ozzy Osbourne like cover band.
Yeah.
And it was like the first show they had in like 3 years or something. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And the pit was pretty crazy. I don't participate in that anymore. I'm too old.
Me too.
Well, they just
coming up.
announced Ozfest is going in Decentraland. It was like yesterday it came out.
No.
Oh, really?
Oh, I have
shit,
to.
okay.
And then we have land in there, so I'm gonna. Oh, that's.
Oh, you
gonna be
do
fun.
you? Have I got a coffee shop
Yes.
for you?
Yes, we have people who would know people who know people, and so we'll be in Decentraland and Sandbox. But we're very fortunate in that. We're very, very fortunate that people continue to ask us to come join them in a new adventure. But yeah, speaking of that, I usually am cycling when that happens, extra. I'll just be cycling all of a sudden I'll hear a garage band or something. I'll just stop and listen to it because I haven't been to a concert in ages. But
in the garage.
It feels like it. It feels like it.
You know, we
Yeah.
for our fractal, we usually kind of split into breakout rooms, and the whole idea of like fractal governance is to reward people for what their contributions were in the last week. But in lieu of we got our first grant coming soon from Alien Worlds to reward people with Trillium. But we've been taking the lead from the EOS Eden Fractal, and we're not going to do our breakout rooms in lieu of that are tokens transferable, DAOs, liabilities. We can talk about all that fun stuff later. But I really just wanted to use this time because a lot of people here haven't met each other. And I recorded the video, so I'd like just to put this up and for everyone to give maybe a 3-minute kind of what you're doing. I think it's just going to be kind of a networking, and instead of us rating and ranking each other on our contributions, we're all awesome. So we all get like 5 stars or mythical NFTs, and I'll send up some rewards. But I just really think this is a really great group of people that are interested in DAOs, that are, community leaders. So I'm going to kind of keep it to about 3-4 minutes because I know we all could talk forever. But I just wanted to really do like a nice highlight of what everyone does here in their different networks, because I think it's really valuable to the audience, and I know, valuable to each other. So Seppuku, I would love you to start because you've just kind of joined some of our new groups, and the amount of influencers and NFT collections you're doing is super interesting. So I think with the format, I'll kind of give you like a heads up if it's like over 3 or 4 minutes. And if at the end, if you can just kind of pass the baton to someone else to talk. And and then afterwards, we can get into the true KROWN call, marathon call of just open dialogue. But I thought, to use this time as some networking to allow the audience to hear what we all do would be fantastic. So if you can launch us off, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for those kind words. I very much appreciate it. Interestingly enough, I run a shill hour every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So I know what it is to keep it brief. Everybody gets 5 minutes. I'll talk about that. That's the first thing. Well, first and foremost, I'm Scotch of the Scotch and Soda non-fungible token gallery. I decided to create a concept in which I took the art of non-fungible tokens, artists like Dark Pinup, Ultra Rare, Black Fang, Star Cards, Exit Limbo, and display it as art in a 3D environment. And so it is 3D virtual experiential gallery. I see a little timer too. Thank you. Keeping me honest. So that's first and foremost what I do. My role in the community, I always think, is to spread love and networking as well, because I think everybody needs it in this big, beautiful metaverse. And I think that it has provided such joy to me, honestly, working with these artists, working with these creators, working with people like Lisa, Duane, Jesse, yourself, having you on the show. I think that, like I always say, we're like this archipelago of islands, right? Except each and every one of us is part of this Web3 space in all these different areas. When we come together, we do amazing things. One of the things that I have done is, as the chief marketing officer of Upix World, a layer 2 video game based on the decentralized app Upland, is we've brought communities together and created a Halloween race inside of that layer 2 game that will actually be providing funds with the sales of non-fungible tokens created to match skins of the video game. And all of those funds will be given to the Child Minds organization to help children with developmental needs. For the gallery, we are doing to what day is it? Tomorrow. I don't know when this will post, but tomorrow it will be Friday the 28th at 6 p.m. We will be doing our biggest build, or showcasing and opening our biggest build yet, which is an entire sim-wide open air art installation for the event Non-Fungible Nightmares. In this one, we got all of our artists together. I did mention them earlier, so it'll be all the same artists, and created little vignettes across a horror themed island in which the art ends up as posters, t-shirts that are sold at a concert, flyers, gravestone art, regular pictures on the wall, let's see, spectrals, and tarot cards. So it was just an absolute blast to do that. Other than that, all I do is meet a bunch of wonderful people and then help them do wonderful things. So I hope to hear all about every one of you, and I hope to be able to support each and every one of you in what you do and uplift your projects. Martin, will you
Hey,
take
yeah, thanks. Amazing stuff that you're doing. So I'm here to represent the .gems team. I can quickly share our link tree. We did a couple of things since NFTs on Wax were available. We started doing like engagement programs via NFTs. We then like started doing more marketing and community engagement for Pomelo, for the ENF, and still do the hot sauce. Also do the Wax Discovery Show, where we featured you guys both like Alien Worlds and the Galactic DAOs. Featured them in the last 2 episodes, and we plan to do this more often when there are interesting developments. In the last 2 years, we've onboarded a couple of independent artists. That's my passion. My background comes from fine arts. I'm a painter, and then came into blockchain and technology. So I have a passion onboarding artists and bringing more creative-minded people into the more technological space. So I think because like when left brainies and right brainies come together, we have some beautiful things happening. So yeah, we onboarded all these artists. We built them galleries and hosted events in various metaverses. So we have real estate in CryptoVoxels, in Sure in Upland, Sandbox, one other one that I'm blanking on the name. It's not the Centerlands, it's the other one. I will tell you guys later. You probably find it in our link tree. Recently started also buying some stuff in Hyperfi. Hyperfi is interesting because it's like completely based on a dynamic game engine, and allows collaboration on a higher level. And has a DAO that curates content in it, so it's pretty interesting. So basically, like different, like what you have in your gallery and my gallery, there's like basically like what are cross references. Anyway, that comes later. We also did metaverse events like the virtual graffiti battles, where we had like VR graffiti artists like competing against each other, and we were doing the metaverse music festival with a couple of people. Most of these things we do the programming. Metaverse Music Festival, we had the whole Wax stage, all the audio NFTs that were hosted on Wax. We invited there, had like in CryptoVoxels the only people that were representing Wax artists, music artists. So how we're doing these events is not just the programming in the metaverse, we're also streaming this basically from different stages and different like camera angles into Web 2. So it's Twitch, YouTube, etc. Via Restream, so multi-platform streaming. So that's how we got a little bit like professional skills on like basically connecting Web 3 and Web 2 in events. Did this also for Emanate. I'm not sure if you guys know, that's like a music streaming platform running on EOS, but also going multi-chain right now, being on Near and Ethereum. So we did their quarterly parties, streaming wise. And like with all this skill set, I really think like what Alien World is doing with the DAO system is something where I want to bring our expertise in, because you are also having like a cross-chain mindset. Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for synergies. I'm also like I never played the mining game. I'm sorry for that, but now that we have the DAO game and we have like some tangible real world kind of connection and bringing in the human layer through like these governance processes that we're experimenting on EOS with. I think there's, Somnium space, exactly. Thanks, Lisa. That's where we're also having stuff. So that's my passion and why I want to get involved here. So I did my candidacy, my Wax account. Like I'm collecting indie artists as Bikini Bottom. That's my Wax account Ness. That's my Wax account name, but like I can't log in yet with Anchor. So and the idea that I'm having, how I would use basically the TLM, I want to start collecting independent artists and basically decorate the planet and have basically a collection of artists similar, like any foundation has like a collection of artists that they support, and potentially have grants to basically like, okay, how is Ike? We need like a portal, and how do we design the portal, and how would it look like, and like basically write out these grants. Potentially do like a monthly auction where we have artists pitching their art and we purchase these things like based on like decentralized decision making, like that's some Eden structure that we can use, or fractally process, where we can, okay, I want to buy this artist, like, and everybody votes for this. I'm not sure, we can explore these kind of things, but we have a budget. So and the way we have a legal problem, so we can't distribute funds, but we can, I think, collectively collect artists and therefore make Ike like I'm candidate for Ike. I want to make Ike like a place of creativity and basically have a nice art collection. That's my idea for now. Now we come back to the Hyperfy thing. I really would like to, like, Hyperfy is great because you can import all the 3D models easily and decorate it. You can also take like your building that you have in Somnium or what you have in Decentraland and just import it to Hyperfy. So you have like basically like a portal to a world where other people can just jump in. It's way easier onboarding than other Decentraland, like Decentraland, for example, or other metaverses. So maybe that's a nice bridge that we can build. We can also build the same building representation in previous metaverses, etc. I think I covered my time right now. Who's next? Lisa, how about you?
Hello, everyone. Great to see you. I have been building all sorts of planetary lore and communication channels and networks with many people, including many of you, in the past couple of weeks, and having a lot of fun doing that. And actually quite a bit tired, if I might say so, but that's part of the fun of the game, right? It's so fun to see all the planets evolve in terms of interests and lore and connections. And I'm already tweeting someone who's really interested in opportunities for all the independent artists he knows, Santino on Twitter. Do you know him? Because we need to connect you guys.
He's a regular on the Wax Discovery Show.
Okay,
and
you know each other.
Here's an open invitation for you, Lisa. That's something you're planning, like, sorry to take over.
Oh no, please. Collaboration is the point.
To release. So one thing that we do on Wax is skatecoin.io. And because like after the virtual graffiti battles, we also want to have others like street culture related projects, because we want to make kind of street culture for the metaverse. What in the 80s and 90s was the streets and community taking over like urban culture. I think now we need urban culture in the metaverse, because the metaverse is kind of like an empty, cold space. We need artists and creators to make it beautiful and make it cozy. So that's kind of, we want to bring like street artists and skaters, graffiti artists all into the metaverse and give them a forum there. So for the skaters to onboard them and onboard independent NFT artists, we do the skate wheel series. So we want to produce some skate wheels for alien worlds, maybe for every planet one. We're going to start with Ike. And in order to release this kind of wheel, we would like to have you on the show, Lisa, if you want.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, and Santino was one of the first people that released the wheel on the Nefty box. I can share the collection so far.
That's awesome. And Danish has been having Twitter spaces for like 10 hours at a time or more, and then like taking a few hours off, and people have been coming and going and chatting about their ideas and everything. So that's been amazing. And he's been on there, and the skate coins there all the time. So that's awesome. I love that. See, that's what I mean. Like E is for Ike, E is for EOS, right? And we're wondering if the Mars people are coming over to Magor. I hear maybe some are. We're going to have to check with them. But You know, what else do you have to go on but the letter, right? But anyway, been super busy, like setting up life on Velas and sort of messing with all other lore stories because it's super fun. But you may have heard that Cole's brother Vol was seen recently. We went on a hike the other day. He's been helping us plant the gardens. He's really low key and chill compared to Cole, who you may have seen in the media lately. So we've been having a lot of fun and working on a news site and obviously running for office on Velas. And I'm so happy to see the number of people voting. That is so wonderful. And I'm super grateful for all of the votes. We'll see how it turns out, but I'll be doing things whether elected or not. So if a bunch of Trillium comes in the end and, it is what it is, I'll still be doing what I'm doing. So just want to put that out there, not going anywhere. I think it's a great thing we're doing for people in humanity and bringing together technology and humanity, and looking forward to collaborating with each of you. Love you all, as you all know. 10 seconds left, Eric. How's that? Oh, I picked someone next. Okay, Eric, go ahead. Time yourself.
Okay, I can time myself. The worst question anyone can ask me is, can I have a resume? Because I hate that. My background is not this set. It's all over the place. But if you look at it, it's all been based on how do you integrate technology and people to solve our big problems and make the world a better place. And in doing that, it's gone everywhere from engineering to research and development to product management, program management, chief engineer, sales, marketing, business development, operations, internet founder, or found a Internet of Things company founder, media host, chief strategy officer for performance marketing agency, and now a professor and a doctoral student. So what is it all about now? It's really all about three things: live, work, and play. It's really about how do you make great environments, both physical and virtual, to hang out in. How do you find relationships and work that matters? That's really the key thing. So in doing that, I realized I started with the kind of physical engineering part of how do you create great workspaces, and realized that the problem was with mostly in that we kept ending up with people and decision making. I'm kind of hanging out in that space. So the first priority for me is how do you share this with great stuff? So we share on Metaversal Mondays in a live stream. Anybody's welcome. If you have a topic, send it to me. We'll do it. Also starting a podcast on what are the things that actually build the metaverse. And then Lisa and I are talking about how do you document the history and what media do you use to do that of all this stuff that's going on. The second thing is, what can we actually do? Well, I want to take this stuff and use it for real. So I'm trying to take governance, and I'm working with an art association to actually take this stuff and do it. In fact, Friday morning, I'm talking with the executive director, and I'm going to start queuing him into what Seppuku 18's doing and say, can we take their physical gallery and integrate a virtual gallery within that? This my sweet spot is projects that go from 3 months to a year. That's where I do best, is I like things pushing, building. I'm not as good, like Lisa will do 20 things today and they're all over and they go and they form places, and that's amazing. But my background is more like, where are we going? What are the pieces? Let's keep pushing them there. So I'm actually writing up a proposal and talk with people about actually integrating fractional governance within a community who's designed to accelerate the growth of amateurs to well-known, well-paid artists and beyond, and to collaborate with all the other communities to make the world better through art. So hopefully in January, we'll start actually this project of actually going with community and doing it. So for me, it's about real taking this stuff. And why am I as excited about gaming? Well, because that's a part of your virtual place to live. It can be work, and it's part of the play thing. It's how you develop relationships to matter. And the other thing for me is it's where you can really test out things. quickly and cheaply and do it. So that's my passion for gaming. My big concern right now is waiting for Duane and Lisa to tell me who to vote, when to vote, how to vote, because I'm confused. With that, and I also host the fractal meetings with Josh Seymour every day at 11 a.m. Pacific. With that, I'll turn that over to Jesse.
Hey everyone, thanks Eric. Skatecoin looks super cool. The graphics there looked amazing. So I'm working on mostly two projects. I have my main project, which is called The Bees. We are an influencer group that can engage on tweets and eventually other social media posts simultaneously. And it leverages some of the things in the social media algorithms to supercharge the promotion of your idea. And I've been working on that since October 2021. And the other thing is my role as a chief delegate on the Eden on EOS community. We would like to offer a service where we can say that our members are Sybil checked, they're humans, and other dApps can leverage that to provide a better experience for their users. And so I'm having a great time just like meeting everyone and trying to put together the pieces where I can. And what I'm super interested about this group is the whole Alien Worlds thing, and how could we do this in the best way, in the safest way. And it's such a unique setup. So Duane had mentioned like, okay, I'm looking at the EOS Eden fractal and some of the decisions they're making, but I think the variables are so much different here that we have to really take it from a first principles perspective to see where we can go forward. Like just for example, the TLM token is much different than the Eden fractal token, or the EOS token has much different implications in terms of how we can use it. And yeah, we have to figure these things out. I think we just have to research it and decide what our risk tolerance is. And so I'm really interested in these type of things. And I'm just willing to kind of think about things and help the best way that I can. And of course, I'll put my, just like my Telegram handle. DM me if you want to promote your content, if you want to learn more about what we're doing on Eden. On Eden, we also have this kind of a similar method to Fractally, where there's a ranking function here, but with Eden, you pick one person to move on. It's more like a March Madness, like political playoffs type system to select leaders. There's a lot of interesting dynamics there too. In crypto, we just have a whole new world of incentives, and it's super interesting to me. It really feels like a different world. Things that happen in crypto just can't happen in the real world, or the old world, or the legacy world. I don't know, whatever you call it. So yeah, I guess that's it. I will pass it to Dan Singjoy.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everybody. Great hearing from everybody, and looking forward to learning more as well. I'll share a bit of an introduction to myself now. So I am Dan Singjoy, and I usually introduce myself as a musician, creator, and entrepreneur, working to make the best experience possible. And I usually share presentations too. So maybe I'll do that a little bit too, because I got a couple websites up. But yeah, I've been participating in these Alien Worlds fractal meetings since the beginning for several months now, and I've gotten to know many people here already. So I guess some of this might be a bit redundant, and feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. But yeah, basically, this is my website, dansingjoy.com. I opened here because I that's like my goal, making the best experience possible. I think that surfing is cool, and stars and whatnot. You can check out dansingjoy.com if you want to learn more about me, and you can check out my music at Dance Party. And I mostly work on Eden Creators and Eden Fractal. For a lot of time, Eden Creators is it's kind of a media outlet that at edencreators.com. Basically, I'm really excited about empowering creators and communities with Web3 and helping everyone to cooperate fractally to make the best experience possible. So using these fractal cooperation processes like we do in Alien Worlds and Eden and so forth. And so I host the Eden Fractal meetings every Wednesday at 13 UTC. We might be switching to 14 UTC. I also participate a lot in Genesis Fractal and Eden for the past year and a half since Eden started, and I make videos and I do writing and make art and go to events and help participate in events and so forth. So you can explore these buttons here to learn more. I'm also known as Dogman in some circles. That's where I've been in the EOS and Antelope communities for like 5 years or 4 years since it started basically. And for a while I went by Dogman, and I still post as Dogman often as well. So you can go to dogmanlives.com. Haven't really updated lately, but that's a lot of their earlier writing and so forth. And then edenfractal.com, people can learn about Eden Fractal. And I also have all sorts of other creative fun things like PlayTubers Global that I'm working on in the future. But yeah, so you can check out the Eden Creators on YouTube, and I've been posting videos from Eden Fractal events there and town hall events and Genesis Fractal and some Alien Worlds Fractal and a bunch of different shows that I've done over time, and also work on curating a lot of videos as well, so people can learn about these really cool processes and communities that we're using with fractal governance and fractal cooperation, as I like to call it, helping people cooperate. I'm really big on that. And then my YouTube channel, I also have a lot of music. I do some live streaming where I just like play guitar and I sing or play piano. And then I also I like making funny videos and stuff like that, but I haven't had much time to do that lately, specifically, but these videos tend to be funny in their own way too. So yep, you can check out the websites if you're interested. They're all there. I can share some links. This is the Eden Fractal meeting. We just had this yesterday. So it's a great way to also participate with this kind of processes if you're interested. A lot of people joined already. So thank you for that. And it's great seeing you here and there and everywhere, as Paul McCartney says. And then also at edencreators.com/alienworldsfractal, I've curated a bit of work that I've just helped curate what we're doing here. This page also needs some updates too, but I made a little bit of art and just wrote a little bit about it. I've been kind of just adding to it over the past months. And I've also done a couple of interviews with Duane and Patrick about Alien Worlds. And I've also done an interview with Duane and Lisa as well about Alien Worlds as well. So I'm really excited about the Alien Worlds community and what we're doing here. And yeah, I think that Alien Worlds is awesome. And then, yeah, I spent a lot of time just writing articles. Like this was an article that I wrote yesterday. And the edencreators.com, one of my main focus has been writing cool articles. Like this one's about dams, about how we can use these processes to make movie studios and make all sorts of videos that help people enjoy their time and experience, things like that. So that's that. 3 seconds left. Thanks, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed.
Pass it to someone, Dan.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'll pass it to Stephen.
Awesome. Thanks. Sorry, I'm getting ready to paste some notes in here. All right. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's great to hear from everybody. I love all the diverse backgrounds, and it's exciting to hear projects that everybody's working on. So my background, I'm a software developer, software engineer for 25 years. But I'm one of the weird ones because I started out on a team, a very small team of developers who had to work directly with marketing people almost every single day. And so I had to learn to not talk technical. I had to learn to talk business and things like that, and learn a lot of things in areas that I was not comfortable with, from marketing to accounting systems to just about everything. So over the years, I've gotten into the habit, and it's kind of my thing, is that if I find something that's interesting to me at all that I have no clue about, I'll jump headfirst into it and learn everything I can about it. Case in point, right now, I'm working towards a municipal incorporation for my area, 20,000 people trying to start a town, one of the wealthiest parts of my county, and trying to figure out how that works and how you navigate. I don't know anything about politics, so I'm having to learn this stuff. But that said, one of the things I did last year is Extra will share about, I'm sure, a company he and I co-founded with Silverback Crypto. But last fall, I decided to jump into NFTs and learn everything I could about that. And I started with this project, which is it was originally a different domain name, but IBM came after me because they didn't like me using their name, even though they don't own this computer or any of this technology or have anything in this space anymore. They're just being jerks. But this underscored a point to me that the whitelisting process on atomic assets isn't friendly at all to smaller content creators and artists, because as soon as you do any appropriative art or art like this that pulls from culture, you risk getting blacklisted like we did. So as a result, I started looking into setting up my own whitelisting a platform where I could whitelist our own project. And that kind of led and dovetailed into NFT backers. If you go to nftbackers.io, you'll see kind of the platform itself, and that combines with the silverbacking, our silverback crypto of LD2 that we do to attach that to NFTs. And we use those NFTs here in this fractally. Duane is one of our first champions in this, and attaching Trillium, KROWN token, and LD2 silver to reward participation in the community, which I think is awesome. So but then that led to, I'll try to speed up, I know I'm running out of time, but that led to more discovery about deficiencies in how atomic assets works, and the ability to search cross collection to find things that you're looking for, because they encode all of the NFT template data on chain, so you can't search it on chain, and it makes it really difficult to find who owns a certain asset and whatever. And their APIs are not great. So we started launching this community API project to fix that. And then I was inspired by talking with Jaffe here this last week, and Duane in the last couple of weeks, about the need for something like this cross-chain. So I'm expanding the vision of this. Originally, it was just the Wax blockchain, but this is basically a cross blockchain search engine for all NFT data that you can imagine. And it doesn't just have to be atomic assets. It could actually start ingesting all sorts of NFT data from any blockchain, any platform, and really just blow the lid off this and have a single source API where dApp developers can go to and access this. And then you can start to do cross game, have cross game activity, cross blockchain activity. It just really opens up the space to do a whole lot more than we've been able to do up until now. So that's a short story of who I am and what I'm doing. Probably way too much, too many things I need to pare back, but that's me.
Pass this on, Stephen.
Oh yeah. I want to hear what Duane's up to. He's a busy guy. What's he doing?
Thanks. Yeah, you guys are amazing. I'm most excited about, obviously, this next experiment in DAX and DAOs, right? We've yeah, that's why I've been in this space from day one. So that's kind of why I've started this fractal experiment. So the token voting is awesome. I think the innovation that we're going to leave behind for other games and communities on having to figure this out, on how we deal with, starting our own DAOs, how we deal with the integration with real life. Yeah, the toolkits we'll leave behind for anybody else following us in games or communities is kind of the exciting part. So I don't mind being. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've only had one job where I got a paycheck. So I don't mind sticking my head out and getting I've failed more than I've succeeded in a lot of things. So I think I'm resilient in trying new experiments. And yeah, the space my only regret, I wish I would have been more of a developer, because geez, it's so amazing, all these tools we can make. So I'm just privileged to have all you creators and developers that we can lean on to create new stuff. I like this fractally process. I see it as another level of kind of my business career started in cooperatives, so kind of like a one member, one vote, and using this as a signal. So if successful, I'm hoping that this kind of could get all the planets together to see some shared goals and tools that we all need, right? So, we're all here, we're not going anywhere. We have, communities, we're growing, but how do we get to that next level of letting the rest of the world know what we're doing? And that's cross-chain, cross-community. So I'm up for elections. I see some of these worlds being very specific, like Martin said, the creative, Ike, EOS, cross-chain collaboration. I see Neri maybe more of like a marketing arm, like following Lisa's incredible press releases every week that really let the real world, or I don't know, what is that world called? The Genesis world, know what we're doing. So like doing traditional marketing and like buying ad space, and you'll see a Neri ad in Times Square soon, that type of stuff. So and then, just back to this fractally, there's enough tools that we'll all need in all the worlds that hopefully we can collaborate in this space to figure that out, right? Because it is a little daunting, you know what I mean? Like, Stephen, you're saying, you like doing things that you haven't done before. Well, we're not all equipped to run, a terrestrial world, to know the legalese, to know what a DAO. We just want to have fun, spread the word and get on with it. So hopefully this can be a platform where we have almost our own galactic federation separate from DeCoco, where we can have, people from each planet working together on some of these more, maybe not as fun issues. So that's about it. I'm here to collaborate. I'm like Lisa, if I voted in, I thank you all. If not, I'm not going anywhere. And hopefully use some of these other tools to help us first get organized and limit liability and get onto it. And then after that, let's just blow it up. Let's have some fun. The biggest thing I love, I've created a lot of teams, and the teams I've created all came from in-person conferences. So, the Neri fun marketing, virtual conferences, this whole thing is taped. We started off, but we all started going to concerts and stuff. Yeah, I can't wait to see you all in person. So like getting some real kind of piggybacking on other conferences and stuff. So can't wait. I'll pass it on to Duane.
Who is indeed, yeah. Sorry, I was just unmuting my microphone. Hello, everybody. Very pleased to see you all. Some of you are known to me, and most of you are not known to me. So who I am, I started very similar to Duane, actually. Loved Alien Worlds. Bought a whole bunch of lands in about December 21, just prior on the release. And then I was like, well, cool, what can we do with these lands? And I started to come up with some crazy activities, some fun in games, built up some large communities. Well, ostensibly for the fun, but really just to get people to come along and mine my land. People had loads of fun, and something was developing, something was really building at that stage. And of course, governance was always, just like Thunderdome, just around the corner, Well, that just around the corner has finally arrived. And latterly, Alien Worlds did like what I did. They loved the fact I was able to build communities. They loved the fact I was able to reach out to people. They loved my quirky, innovative ideas. And they brought me on core as part of the team. So right now, I'm part of the Alien Worlds social team. I'm part of the Alien Worlds law squad as well. And soon to be the man who will be hosting the Alien Worlds Twitter space on Tuesday, which is mostly why I'm here today. Firstly, to meet all you guys, and I love all your stories. Martin, I love your enthusiasm. completely concur, bringing Trillium, art, etc., bring it all together, make it all fun, all games, bringing the real world into the virtual world, and building what I personally think of as metaverse. Just the metaverse is everything and everywhere. The real, the virtual, the gaming, the social spaces, the Telegram, the Discord, everything. All of that to me is metaverse. Now we've got the tools to build it, and more to the point, we've got the tools to finance it as well. And you've got the eyes on the space too. We've got everything from the media eyes on the space to the community eyes on the space to even just peeking on the outside, not really quite liking NFTs. The gamers might come and join us eventually, the real core gamers. So today, I'd love to invite you all to our Twitter space on Tuesday. As you can tell by the accent, I am based in the UK. So I've got the best time we could possibly do it is at 12:30 UTC on November the 1st. I guess you're all based across the states, so probably slightly different time zones. Right now, I'm on 1800 or 1800 BST, which is 1700. So we're looking about 4 hours prior to this on Tuesday. We're going live with our first Twitter space. It's you guys' chance to just basically do what you've done on this call today, and what I'm sure you've been doing with Fractally for the last X amounts of months. Get together, but now not just chat amongst yourselves, but take the message out to the wider community. And I love the message. I love the message so far. It's going to absolutely rock. So let's get some votes for you guys. I'll drop a link in the chat for that Twitter space. Do please fill out the Google form. It's not mandatory, but just helps us track who is going to come along with, and helps us track things. And if this does go off quite well, hopefully we'll branch out in future, do more regular Twitter space and podcasts along the lines of governance, and just keep things rolling, because with this momentum behind us, I think this could be gigantic, and with fantastic people like yourselves, certainly will be gigantic. That's me. I shall pass it on to Extra von NotHaus.
Okay. I think most of you on this call already know me, and have already kind of heard kind of what I work on, which is, like Steve mentioned, he and I created a, silver-backed crypto that started with fungible tokens on Ethereum, and then migrated to Wax and so forth, and now we do. Now we've layered NFTs on top of that. So maybe in the theme of things, maybe I'll change it up and tell you a little bit about my background instead of those things that people have already heard about before. So I grew up in the precious metals business. My dad owned a precious metals minting company. So we made gold and silver coins in Hawaii. That led into my dad creating Liberty Dollar, which some of you might have heard of before, which was a silver-backed physical currency. So bills and certificates that you could spend at merchants and stores around the country, around the world, that were all backed by silver. He did, and Steve was involved in this, in some of these efforts. He did a electronic version called the ELD, which was a silver-backed currency in 2003. So well before Bitcoin or any crypto existed. It was really one of the very first, if not the very first, electronic currency. And it was somewhat of a walled garden, as we might call it, because crypto and blockchain didn't exist and so forth. But it was an electronic way of buying, silver and trading silver and gold, peer to peer, right? That may have spurred, some of the crypto usage that we see now. Like I said, that was 5 years before that. Then I, was a physicist at UCLA, where I did my undergrad. At the same time, I launched a bunch of motorcycle and hot rod magazines for a big publisher. I also managed a bunch of artists. So I had an artist management company that led into managing not only my brother, who's an artist, but other artists, and licensed their work to watch companies that we helped start and other licensing arrangements for street artists and graffiti artists and so forth. So that was kind of a weird dichotomy between physics and the art world. Then I left all of that and became an investment banker and worked for a $3 trillion Japanese investment bank for several years, doing all kinds of origination and syndication and other kind of investment banking work. Eventually left that to work with Steve on a payment processing company, or an asset-backed debit card, essentially, that my father had patented, that Steve had worked on in the past. And so he and I worked on that fintech company for a few years. And eventually that led into Steve and I deciding to set that project aside and launch LD2, which is an extension of, Liberty Dollar, like I said. And so Steve and I have been building LD2 since then, which again is a silver-backed fungible token to begin with. And now, like Steve was mentioning, we layered kind of NFTs on top of that through Wax. And so now you can have fungible physical asset-backed protocol that we built, and NFTs that layer on top of that. At the same time, I've been doing a bunch of, I've been working for a consulting firm that does intellectual property and patent analysis for law firms that are involved in litigation in the fintech and banking space. So we've worked for Bank of America, and we've worked for Morgan Stanley, and we've worked for a whole bunch of other big banks and investment banks on how fintech gets patented, and how does, and we write, briefs for federal judges about how fintech and banking infrastructure and such works. But like I said, our main focus at the moment is, expanding LD2. And so similar to Duane, we are, one of the recipients, or soon to be recipients, of one of the Alien Worlds Galactic Hub grants to start building asset-backed NFTs for Alien Worlds, and how to connect NFTs through the Alien Worlds platform and new creators, in addition to Alien Worlds, to kind of real world assets and that sort of thing. So our focus is mainly, like I said, we started with silver and silver coins and that sort of thing. But as Steve was mentioning, he built NFT Backers as kind of a sister company of how you can really back NFTs with anything. But the real focus being kind of from a philosophical standpoint, that there has to be some sort of connection between the real world and the digital world, right? And we've seen this with VIRL that Wax is doing, which we did before them, but that's, neither here nor there. So anyway, so that's kind of, what Steve and I are working on, bringing to a larger creator ecosystem, where people who want, creators of NFTs who want to back their collections with physical assets can use our protocol to do so. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I don't know how much time I have. I don't have a timer, but I think that kind of sums it up.
You want to?
And so do I need to
somebody?
turn it over to somebody? I'm sorry, Steve, what were you saying?
I said throw it to somebody. I think
Okay.
Derek, Jason, and Danish Crypto.
Yeah, Jason. Jason likes to talk. He's probably got something to say.
Hey, everybody.
He's probably in his garden.
Are we talking about ourselves a little bit? Are we talking about our careers? Is this like a meet and greet?
We're just kind of doing like a little introduction. And so, some of us have been talking about the backgrounds and other stuff because, a lot of us are on the same calls, Jason. So we may know what we're working on. So I decided to kind of go into my background just because maybe that's something new for people. But yeah, just kind of like 3 minutes about what you're doing and who you are, and that kind of shit. So
Okay.
nice door, by the way. Very very nice. Very
love the door.
Like I said, I thought you'd be in the garden, or wandering around like usual on our Thursday morning calls. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm getting right back to that for sure. So yeah, where to start? I don't know. I've had a lot of jobs through my life, through my time. I'm a business student. I studied HPCom at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay, Ontario. I volunteered as a coach for 10 years there. I was a lacrosse coach and referee. At the time, I was self-employed. I was in the trades doing all forms of construction labor. So just unloading and loading trucks and general labor, right? We were like college pro painting. Me and my crew of friends, we were just self-employed gig economy style. From that, I moved on to some domains of construction that were a little bit more skilled, like roofing, and we dabbled in forestry. And in the end, I ended up taking up my family trade, which was electrical. Both my dad and my brother are electricians. My dad is a master electrician, and he runs his own contracting company, so I do labor for them. I do the business administration for them. I bid jobs, give prices, and do the materials handling, the prep, and stuff like that. I should say that from my business degree, I also had foray into financial services. In 2012, following the apex of Occupy Wall Street, I had a long-standing offer to join an investors group office in Thunder Bay. They tried recruiting us out of university. And so in 2012, I took that offer and I took their training, and I got my securities license and I got my life insurance license. And I started to practice as an investors group consultant. And I was primarily curious to see how the industry was going to deal with the issues that Occupy Wall Street had brought to light. And also I felt the need to educate people about the financial system and about their opportunities in finance. And so I only spent 1 year in that station. I was very dissatisfied overall with it. That was where I discovered Bitcoin. That was 2013. I was very used to being self-employed at that point. And so when I discovered Bitcoin, it actually came to me. A person had discovered it first and they wanted to unpack it, and they knew I was into finance, so I was the guy that they could talk to. After that, I moved to Calgary, and been gig economy since. I run a meetup where I teach cryptocurrency once a week, every Thursday evening. CryptOasis is the name of the meetup that I run, and it's formless. It's just like this. It's just a chat. Extra's right. I love to talk. Somebody better interrupt me or I'll just keep going.
Good time, and just pass it on to the next person.
Okay, who's left?
We got DanishCrypto, we got goparel, and that might be it.
I'm gonna go with DanishCrypto. First on the list. DanishCrypto, what's up?
Oh, you're on mute.
Hello?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Hi, I'm Anders, DanishCrypto. I've been in the wax space for better half of 2.5 years. I've been working around a lot of different projects on here. Before that, I have 6.5 year history in different crypto projects. Been helping everything from nano and
Oh, your audio just clicked off, Danish Crypto.
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Maybe
you
my
bet.
head. Probably. I've used that headset for more than 4 podcasts or um, what you call them, spaces over the last 4 days, and been on spaces for a minimum of 10 hours over the last 4 days, like per space. So maybe I broke my headset.
Yeah, you burnt them out.
I have been in the crypto space in all for around 10 years. The first 6 years, like dibbling around different blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, side chains. I've been around the space, helped majority of crypto projects, mostly with community management, project management, and advisement, and whatever job I can find in between that could help the projects that I find interesting. And in the last 2.5 years, I found wax through some of the older Ken Bosak streams, and saw, like, I was trying to do NFTs, and for a group I had, the Mota coin team wanted to do 150 NFTs for the first members in their new starting group because our old got bot attacked. So I was gonna do that for all the new members, but we're doing it on Ethereum. And at the current time, that would have cost my personal pocket around $1,600 to mint those 150 NFTs. And then I still needed to send them. And I was like, we're not gonna do this. No. And 3 weeks later, I saw Ken Bosak do some streams on Wax, and I was sold. And right after that, I realized that Wax had the same technology as EOS because it was EOS.io based, but I didn't realize that in the beginning. And then I also realized that I was a fool because I never interacted with EOS for some reason, news reasons that many of you probably already know. So let's not get into all that. And I've been sold ever since, and been building with my own team, Behood Network, and we have built a Leaf token and a Blowjob token, and we have built some games, maybe basically Telegram-based games, but we are dribbling into more UI-based. But we, again, started from not knowing the blockchain and has been working full on to play around with the blockchain here for 2.5 years now, and have made some pretty neat innovations in our own mind. And we have our like leaf miner stuff on Telegram. Some of you might know, like the Dust project. It's kind of similar, but with a lot more vision on what we thought would be a decentralized version of doing that. And we have built like a NFT store in the bot, so you can buy NFTs and sell NFTs directly from Telegram, and other things. My developers are right now working on making it able for me to reward people that participate in spaces with Wax currencies. So hopefully soon I can provide something for the community where all of us, when we do spaces, we can reward the participants that has been in there for 10 minutes, half an hour, the full hour, and reward those people for showing up. Yeah, that's a little about me, and I hope I didn't go too much off rail here. So take it, goparel.
I'm not really awake. you guys are doing a lot more different stuff than me. I guess I'll just do a quick rundown. I'm Derek from goparel. We do a lot of stuff from, we're top rated eBay sellers. We do WordPress hosting, website development. We do print on demand. We make NFTs, of course. We just do a lot of stuff. I just woke up recently. Lisa gave me a link, so I just joined in here. Didn't realize my mic was on, by the way, in the beginning. I don't know what, if you heard me, I seen a thing come up saying you've been muted. I was like, whoops. So my apologies to that. I appreciate you having me in here, and yeah, check us out. We're goparel.com. We love Telegram. We have a Telegram room, so you can always join that. Danish does too. I don't know if he said that. We're good friends, and become a good friends with Lisa as well. She's great. So yeah, thanks for having me in.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining. And yeah, I muted you, but I didn't hear anything. So it's all good. Wow, this is I'm taping this, and hopefully I have all your permissions. I'm going to put it up on the KROWN deck YouTube, but some really good cross collaborations, and I'd like to thank Lisa for bringing a lot of new people to the to our weekly meetup. Our usual kind of schedule as we've been testing out this fractal governance and just a different way to come to consensus. But to be honest, this is kind of the root of the fun of what it's all about. It's just to get people together. I'm not as active on all the socials, but I find this is the perfect way to network. And we've been doing Go Fractally meetups for a long time, and it's been kind of this face-to-face connection that, you know, we don't always explain our backstory or what we're working on. So I've created more connections and working relationships just through these kind of meetups. So I just really appreciate everyone coming. I think on that note, that's kind of our introductions. We've held a KROWN meeting for like 4 years in this space. So it's usually just an open forum. But because we've got a lot of creators and, you know, NFTs, we usually get into like DAX or governance or, you know, different types of things. But if there's someone that's really passionate about the next steps, you know, that the theme obviously to start this meeting is alien worlds and what we all want to bring to alien worlds, and how we want to expand our communities. Oh, nice shirt. I guess in saying that, you know, I didn't get a chance to go to the Nifty Blocks conference, but I guess there's a conference coming up soon, right? We've got an atomic kind of conference coming up. So I was just curious if anybody is kind of virtually attending that. And then, yeah, I'm just wondering where people are meeting after that. I'm in Costa Rica. I'd like to have a conference down here sometime that would kind of piggyback on something else, but maybe I'll just start with that is, you know, what are you guys looking forward to as far as meetups or spaces? You know, you all shared your kind of spaces, the Danish crypto marathon cryptos, but yeah, if everyone just wants to put up their hand, we can kind of go around and share some stuff. And Danish Crypto, go ahead.
I was at the Nifty conference and met a lot of really, really nice people down there, and also where I got my shirt and a banner like the Year of the DAO. Some of you might know that banner. We are doing the Atomic London event right next to NFT London. So it's not officially part of that, but that also means that it's free to attend, where NFT London is not. Of course, there is still the thing that you need to go to London. London is not cheap to go at. Right now, I actually have a ticket to fly there. Just missing a place to stay. And right now we have a little under 2 weeks left, and the closest thing I personally have found myself, close enough to where I feel comfortable, will cost me more than $1,000 for staying there for 3 days, and that's I think it's a little pricey, but I don't know. I don't know your pockets, but I'm like, oh shit, I hope I can crowd surf somewhere instead, because again, even in Amsterdam when we were down there, it's like the only times I was at the hotels was for sleep, shower, out, and like I don't want to pay for luxurious things when it's like that, and I always do that when I'm out traveling. So yeah, trying to find something cheaper, but it's definitely interesting. And apart that, I've been running the Space Marathon onboarding campaign on Twitter for the last 4 days, which started with a 10-hour space, then a 16-hour space, and then a 13-hour space, and yesterday a 15-hour space. So I've gone hard at it, trying to onboard people, have been walking them step by step, if they were willing to, both to get a Wax wallet, set up alien worlds, do other things. We have had a lot of valuable conversation on that. We have had people in from both Wax, like Tommy was up and introducing some things and doing live support on my space, along with my own developers were up giving a little support for a new member that wanted to sign up to one of our systems, and there was some problems with the cloud wallet. Even though we don't have access to that, we found a way around it. And we had even the TON marketplace, getgems.io, which is the open network, the blockchain that Telegram has been building in the background. The biggest marketplace on there, up and talking, that was on day 2. And then they invited me to another space about TON and interoperability with the Telegram, and shown a little of what I did with or with what my team have been doing with that, but with Wax instead of TON, and they were impressed, and we have like started some developer connections and stuff, and it's all what I actually wanted to do is trying to bridge some of all this, because I don't really care if it's Wax or what it is. I care about like the technology we are using, and this technology works, and I've gotten to show some of the people also working with awesome technology that there is other technologies they might be able to cross into, especially because like TON is building to be the most bridged blockchain in the world, and they already have like Solana, Binance Smart Chain, and Ethereum bridges. So trying to get them to build Antelope bridges would be amazing, and they have some amazing developers over there. So I'm trying to push that. And yeah, that's a little about that. And then I don't know, governments. I'm running for the government's part of Alien World, so that part of our conversation I'm really excited about. I've been reading and digging deep, and again trying to onboard, and it's been really fun so far. So, but yeah, next person, let's take it from there.
Nice. Sabuko?
Yes, hi there. I figured I would just go ahead and piggyback on that. Let me lower my hand. I look like a kindergartner. Alrighty there. I thought I'd piggyback on that because mine is going to be the absolute shortest. I know nothing about Alien Worlds. I've come here because of an invitation from Lisa. Come to the game, not this meeting. I should preface. Come to the game of Alien Worlds. I am in the metaverse Upland, the decentralized app Upland. That's where my blockchain game of choice is at this time. So I was excited to hear about the communities that are being created inside of Alien Worlds. I know so many people, and I've met so many new ones, Danish, Jesse as well, Dan, in this short period of time. Duane I've known for quite some time. And I thought, if this many amazing people are here, why am I not here, right? And I just continue to meet more and more of you on each one of these calls. So thank you for showing up and showing me how many amazing people are out here still, right, in this space. But I only know how to play, so I'll just say a quick shout out, and then I'll stop. But I only know about how to play because I did attend Danishes now I want to Danish his Twitter space, and it was very helpful. In the space of 20 minutes, I had my shovel, I was a human female, and I was already voting for people. So it was extremely helpful. They were extremely kind. Good work, guys. Lisa was there, that when I say they, so both of you, kudos to you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help and look forward to the future of Alien Worlds and all of your successes as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so great to see how quickly we can onboard people, right? We had Jesse onboard you to EOS just live and recorded, and yeah, people running like marathon sessions to onboard people. It's incredible. So yeah, hats off. Who do we have next? Extra.
Yeah, so since this is a, Alien Worlds kind of focused, discussion, kind of wanted to bring up a separate topic, just because maybe people like, Duane or other people have a little better sense of this. But I got an email from Alien Worlds this morning about some cyber criminal nefarious stuff going on. Does anybody, Duane, you're nodding your head? I mean, it was
It's not
pretty
me.
cryptic.
I'm a
Does anybody
wizard,
have
not a lizard.
any more?
I'm a wizard, not a lizard. Please don't. It's not me attacking.
I wasn't accusing anybody, Danish. I was
I was busy
more
yesterday
wondering
too.
if
You can
anybody
ask
had more context to like what exactly
It
that was
is
about.
there could be a nefarious actor, trying to take over the planets, and the only way we can really combat that is some resiliency and more people going up for candidacy. So I think really it's a call out to some community members to put their hat in the ring and be a candidate. So I think it's if you want we're talking lore here, right? We're talking marketing and lore and kind of a call to action. And besides that, if you want to find out more, I think you have to dig deeper in there. I'm not going to give anything out, but I think there's a solution to it for more community members and more people to go up for elections, because the more people we have running, then maybe we can combat. I don't know if it's it might be a trans alien bot army. It's difficult to say. I think you have to check it out a little bit more. But the call to action would be I'll post a link. Definitely Danish, and a lot of people are doing how to vote. So I'm doing the same on Mondays. And if I'll do like how to put your hat in the ring, and I think that would be a good thing to do. You've been a long-term community member back in Alien Worlds NFTs with Silver, so I think maybe you can help fight these evil villains by putting your hat in the ring.
And so it's not coincidental that Max hit me up about becoming a candidate at the same time.
I don't know if there's such thing as coincidence anymore.
They're the saying my dad had that he stole from a movie, which is, the question isn't whether you're paranoid, the question is if you're paranoid enough.
Sorry, Duane. If I
anyway, sorry, I just wanted
to wait. Let's hear from Duane here.
Yeah.
So, being very close to the coalface as such, I'd like to release an official, unofficial, tongue-in-cheek statement about Cole, who is very well known to me. Firstly, don't believe everything you hear about him. He's not quite as bad as people make him out to be. In fact, he might even be good. Secondly, have a very, very close look at the governance tab. Make sure you know who the candidates are. Are they all real candidates? Well, it's not for me to say. Thirdly, do you want to come against Cole? Do you want to come against Cole? Maybe it's not in your best interest to. Maybe you should just lay down and let the governance flow. That's up to you. Cole's a good guy. I'm all for him. Whatever stance you take, that's completely up to you.
Brilliant.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't necessarily making a judgment, right? Let's be clear. Like I said, I was just looking for a little more context of maybe somebody in this group knew exactly a little more about
Well, that's
what that
it.
was referring to. But I think we've beaten this dead horse enough. So I think
I
Eric
just
has
needed
had
to
had
shout
had
it
to
out because the picture GIF that has been flowing around is a man turning into a lizard, and I'm a wizard and often been called a lizard, but it's not me, even though I can do magic sometimes. Evil or good, it's all up to you.
Yeah, very nice. Got Eric with your hand up.
Yes, I do. So, I always think of how we can put things together and deliver things. So I'm excited about getting a physical art community built up that does, art, music, furniture, food, all that kind of stuff. I think Dan figured out the other day that I have a secret musician past also. I think he saw my guitar in the back and called me on it. So there's a passion there. So, I think of taking Seppuku's studio and first creating that virtual present for some physical artists here, because they need to be trained and nurtured in the physical space too. And I've already been talking to other artist communities about duplicating this model if we get it and moving there, including an art film festival. So I'd like to see some movies and films. We could even have an Alien Wars. Then, of course, I see that studio being on Erie or someplace like that also. And then as we start feeding these things in there, I see promoting these artists with events from Martin, and then promoting those events that they're doing on with the stuff Dan's doing, with the things that the bees are doing. Those are things that just pop in my head, and I'm sure we can figure out a way how to then put the mint backing things that Extra and Steven are doing in there occasionally too. So I'm just thinking about step by step how I get all this done within the next year. Don't know if that helps, but that's just the way my mind works.
With some of that art you're talking there, is that like redeemable for real world art, or are you trying to train people to there is only doing digital art to come out in the real world?
No,
Because
I don't see, to me, it's all the same thing. I just see creating a space for art, physical and virtual, and teaching people how to do that and helping them get their art, how to get the skills, but two, how to get the distribution and adoption of their thing. So how do you distribute it, get it adopted? And I know Lisa's got a lot of strategies, and so do you. I've talked to you before on how you do this stuff. So people need that help because most of them are just artists. And I see a lot of that art and music and video in that school. Part of that going for game art and planet art, and we can make things, part of art is expressing those things, which is tough to say, and things that make places unique. So what does the art community do on Neron versus Magor versus all those things? I see we want to give people a reason to go places because the experience is different, and art is just not the whole thing, but it's part of that experience. So my passion is just how do you build community, and I think one of the art that we need to do is what Lisa does, which is community experience design. I think that's the key that you don't talk about, but it fits in that. And I don't know how we train people to do that, but I think that needs to be part of this too.
that is really interesting and a way of going about it. I like it. I definitely like it. And I also like what Lisa is doing up here, like the experiment of building communities and different ways of doing it, because even though it's hard to say it's all a game, we are experimenting. Like the whole crypto sphere is an experiment. And with that, building communities and projects and functional attributes around that can go both ways, because we don't know what is actually going to work yet. So
yeah, and there's kind of two ways of thinking about this. you know, one way is you do cool stuff and then people start sharing, and because they have passion and get together, stuff happens. The other idea of that is you create a vision and then you create centers of gravity that get everybody's attention focused on that. So, you know, Martin was saying, oh, you have here's this online session, come to that. That's a center of gravity. So I'm saying getting some centers of gravity built and promoted that do these things. And so what I'm looking at is a lot of my background has to do with resilience, and more of it actually has to do with sustainability, which is, yeah, this is good for right now, but how do we do this so we're still doing it in 5 years, 10 years in a way that adjusts and shifts, because this is all going to shift in huge ways.
Hey, Eric. I'm politely waiting for Lisa because she was next in line, but I felt like I could give you a direct answer. So the onboarding process, we went through the onboarding process like for a long time, and it's kind of like a very manual and hands-on process, talking to artists who are completely new to blockchain and to technology, and it's not really scalable. But however, what I feel is like the way to go is like having the success stories, the artists that are already in the ecosystem, the people that are already on the blockchain, giving them exposure and like basically like creating these success stories, and then they will tell their friends how easy it was. Because like us coming into like, let's say in a gallery or an art space, or like just like doing this one-on-one conversations, it's really, really something that takes a lot of time and is not necessarily something that works right now. Like it worked when NFTs were super hyped, but right now, like we can't promise anybody having sales. We can't everybody that they spent their time in like valuable. So I think it's really about right now it's maintaining. You talked about like sustainability and do something like that's long term. I think like that's really right now helping those people that are already in the ecosystem and work as independent artists and already have their wallets, they already have their provenance, and they have their oeuvre already. So, and then they will go out and share, hey, I started doing NFTs and I'm really getting appreciated from digital community, and I have chances to go on Twitter Spaces, or I have the chance to exhibit my art in a VR environment, and some people from all around the world experience my art. So I think that's kind of the strategy that I see, and that's where how I came up, or why I think it brings value to Alien Worlds to build up a collection over time and then kind of shape this community that's then expanding horizontally and not just like one by one.
Well, I agree with you, but so the idea, what I'm thinking about is you create the center of gravity for those people to want to show up and get that. The next part is creating a connection between the amateurs and the wannabes and the new people, so that they have that idea of, ooh, I want to be like that. And some idea, like with the workshops that Lisa talks about, well, how do I get to be that? And those are, like you said, they're all kind of dynamic and going, and they need to shift as the thing shifts. But the thing that's sustainable is this idea of constantly creating the next thing, that the center of gravity, and having the workshops and the connections to get them there. The mechanics of all that, because an event that might be good this year or this month may not work the next month. So you can't be emotionally tied to the event or this particular workshop. You just get tired of this idea of setting up bridges between the physical space and the virtual space, and the idea of creating centers of gravity and bringing in mentors as they're there. So that part all has to be very dynamic.
Sippy, cool, you got the answer, but I really like the analogy of gravity, because we're talking like space and planets, and that's pretty much like, you know, we want that great gravity for art and creativity on these planets.
Just really quick, and I know Lisa was talking, I'm gonna be 5 seconds, I promise it'll be more. But I just want to say I absolutely know what you're talking about, because obviously I'm creating a non-fungible token gallery. My entire job is to showcase art in the non-fungible world, and one of the difficulties is with all the rug pulls and things like that. I think influencers, if I'm honest, I mean, I'm a marketing director of a video game, right? I don't call myself an influencer, but somehow I became one. But I think the problem in this space, unfortunately, is with the bear market. Oh, these artists, they're already, maybe they don't have the funds, they're barely producing, and they don't have the funds to get themselves marketed and things like that. So I just wanted to touch base with the fact that Scotch and Soda Gallery, we do everything for free. It is entirely a labor of love, and it's for that reason. We're in this bear market, and there's a lot of people, you know, there's people everywhere want to make money all the time, but how many people in the space want the artist to succeed? And I think that's one of the important things about getting people together, getting communities together who really want to see projects succeed as a labor of love during this weaker market, this weaker economy. So I'm happy to see people like yourself out here, and people like Eric willing to help, and not for the mighty dollar.
Yeah, and to react on this directly, like I think it's really unfortunate that NFTs became such a thing with the rug pulls and the scams, you know, because that has nothing to do really with like independent artists. I'm making a strong difference between like independent artists and creators that produce digital, you know, their work digitally, and let's say PFPs, because like when PFPs came up, it became basically like a fungible, non-fungible thing. They had the scarcity of like, you be part of this community. I like the aspect of like, you know, becoming part of something, let's say a yacht club, or, you know, the Cool Cats, or whatever it is overall. But it's more or less like a utility to become part with an NFT. It's not so focused on the art or like the communication, what an artist wants to express. So, but the NFTs hype really started with the independent artists, with like the misfits that started, hey, I'm doing minting NFTs and I'm doing these kind of things. And that's these people had a codex. They started like, hey, I just sold a big amount of I sold a work for a big amount of money, and they immediately reinvested in other artists. And they had this kind of mentality, hey, because it's all on chain, which is awesome, right? You know, you had a big sale, and if this artist doesn't use 50% of like the funds that he made to buy other artists, his reputation was gone. That was kind of the codex in the early days for a lot of people. And it really utilized like the power of blockchain and transparency and like how to build reputation. And that kind of completely got lost, let's say in the last year, when everything went from hype into kind of like whatever this is right now. But we have the chance to rebuild this, right? And that's why I'm passionate about it, and I want to expose it. Like I want to like elevate artists. I want to bring them back to be like the leaders of this movement, and not necessarily like, I mean, Alien Worlds is a game and it's building a community, and that's all great. But for me, like giving artists a space is important because they shape the culture. Because otherwise, it's just reproducing the same schema, just label like with a different label. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm not sure if this was clear what I mean, but I let Steven jump in or extra.
Sure. When I did the IBM project, I started it because I wanted to figure out how NFT works, or NFTs worked, and do some art and kind of explore that space. The further I got into the project, the more I realized that there was a lot of history surrounding that. I launched it as the 40th anniversary of the IBM PC, which is the computer that started the personal computing revolution. It was the first one that was affordable. And I realized that there was a lot of history attached to that was completely being lost. So I had my motivation for it. I didn't really consider myself an artist. I guess I am a digital artist in some regard, but I did that. But then I started to attach a lot of the history to it, because I was looking at the blockchain and IPFS and all these things as a way to preserve information, to put it on chain so that it can survive for hopefully a long time. I've got a daughter who's turning 18 here in a little bit, and and she had the unfortunacy of growing up right in a space where we were using inferior video cameras to capture things. So we don't have hardly any videos of her as a young child. Whereas now it's super common, you know, you've got all this digital stuff. And before that, you would have videotapes of people, you know. And so I think there's these eras of technology where it's going from one to another, where a lot of information just drops out of society, and this history gets lost. And you know, the creators, IBM, they didn't do a good job of documenting any of this. It took me months just to find out, you know, a BSC adapter for a computer, what was that even used for? And so I took a lot of that historical information and plugged it into the templates and things like that. So just trying to create a space that preserved information in addition to the art. And I think that is an interesting area really for any project. If you find an area of interest, to gather that information and use it to express in art, but also use it to educate, kind of like Eric was saying, like how do you educate people and bring them along? One thing that I think would be super cool to see if somebody got it licensed is like a Bob Ross NFT collection, that the whole thing is not just displaying Bob Ross paintings, but it's actually like teaching, this is the process, this is how you do it, and this is how you explore and learn and grow in this area. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there, not just art, but history perspective, and pulling that on chain and preserving information.
Hey, Lisa's just telling me to just jump in and talk. So I guess I'm just jumping in and talking. Can y'all hear me still? Everything good? Okay. Yeah, Tommy from Wax, I'm sure you guys all know him. He reached out because we stream Twitter Spaces. For people that are on Twitter, they do Wax Wednesdays. And basically, yesterday they just had a space, and with about like Tyranno and et cetera, and they put out today that or Tommy reached out and asked if I'd remove the video because apparently as of now they are no longer associated. So, but I know if you guys follow the Stormtrooper project, there's been a lot of bad hype around it. So I don't know much about it, so I can't really speak on it, but I do know now they are officially no longer together. So yeah, breaking news, you heard it here first.
So if I may, I wanted to kind of address what Martin was saying a second ago. And as someone who was a graphic designer for 10 years and managed a whole bunch of different artists and so forth, I think that the point, and that's what I said, I wanted to kind of address what Martin said. I think that there's always and I know this in the artists that I used to manage and so forth, is that there's a appeal of technical skill, right? And I think that a lot of the time, at least when I see NFTs and so forth, I don't necessarily see an appealing technical ability more than anything else, right? I mean, the artists that I used to work for, I always was drawn towards people who had those technical skills, right? Who were more proficient, who were better painters, right? In my world, better graffiti artists, better street artists, and so forth, right? And that always was more appealing to the clients, to the licensees that we dealt with, and so forth, right? So, while I understand your perspective and I don't disagree with it, I don't know that there is somewhat of this universal appeal of NFTs necessarily, when a lot of the art, in my opinion, is just not that good, right? And of course, that's a subjective opinion of mine, and we can, you can disagree, and there's no objectivity there. but I think that there is somewhat of a low bar, if you will, of what is the ability of the actual artist to create art that is technically difficult or has some sort of proficiency, right? And just for the sake of being an NFT or being an NFT creator or doing digital art doesn't necessarily mean that you're proficient or that you have some sort of, you know, skill set that's involved, right? And I think you see that with graffiti artists, right? There's graffiti artists that come from TKO or CBS or any of the big crews, and there's a hierarchy, you know, about how good of an artist are you actually, right? So if you look at somebody like, take CBS, I don't know if you know that crew from LA, you know, Crayola is a great artist, right? Axis is a great artist. If you look at Sonic, for example, who's a good friend of mine, and was in CBS for a very short period of time, there you can see that hierarchy, right? In terms of proficient skills, right? So I think you see that like in Yacht Club and other places, right? Which is just because you're successful doesn't mean you're necessarily a good artist. And I think if we proficient, let's put it that way, right? Technically proficient. And I think that there needs to be maybe a little more, as there are in galleries in the real world, right? That there has to be somewhat of a calling the herd, if you will.
Yeah,
Let's get better artists, better digital artists.
Yeah.
Sorry if that sounds harsh.
No, absolutely. Like, so the word you're looking for is curation, right?
Right, absolutely.
Exactly. Right. And I think the chance that we're having here and what I'm actually trying to build is like having a decentralized mechanism for curation. Because the problem that we have with the current art market, the traditional art market, is that the curation there is similar, like in the music business, is very much already established people that decide who's up and coming and who will be the next big thing. So that what we call gatekeeper, right? And the gatekeeper mentality was something that the NFT community was raging against. And that's why I gave an example. When artists that are successful start collecting other artists, that was kind of the first wave of like, okay, sharing the success and bringing everybody up and allowing everybody to work as an artist for another 6 months because you just made some sales, you know. So we can bring the overall skill set and the overall quality of art or, you know, just creative output to a higher level. But what I'm trying to propose and what we can do with like Fractally or with the Eden Fractal or with Eden or here in Alien Worlds, like really building up a collection and deciding collectively in a decentralized fashion what artists we all deem as quality and therefore start collecting and investing in them. And then that's open, right? So that's open for artists to participate in this process, but also for just art lovers or investors to participate in this. And I think that's a conversation that's very unique and it's very Web3. And for me, that's kind of a way to redo like how we value creative people in our society. So
no, I agree. No, I agree, and I don't, you know, and I totally agree with that, you know. And as someone who worked not only in the artist world, but I worked for Sony Music, you know, in the A&R, you know, that gatekeeper can be a double-edged sword, right? Because yes, it can be very negative, right? And we've seen that with Spotify and so forth, with artists that can get success, right, without having to go through that. And the other side of it is, especially in the art world and so forth, it can kind of set a standard, right? Of if you're not this good, or if you're not this attractive to the gallery owners and so forth, right, then you're not going to get through that gate, right? So, like I said, it can be both things, right? It can be stymieing to a lot of people who maybe want to get through that gate and can't, but at a certain point, maybe some of those people who can't do that gate shouldn't get through that gate.
Agreed. And they wouldn't probably in an Eden process or in a fractal process wouldn't make it as far. Right.
Right.
It's not about having
Absolutely.
one gate, it's about multiple gates, and the higher you get, you know, and that the other thing that I like, it's like there's an academia aspect to it, right? You get reviewed by a community and they say, hey, I like this artwork better and this and yours not so much, you know, you could probably improve there. And that's like that's a way, it's a discourse, right? And that's something what I really appreciated learning about art, being in an academy, being in a university, and that's how we bring the whole thing forward. And not just one artist or increase sales for one project. That's like an overall process where everybody learns.
And I think it forces those artists to like get better, right? Or to you know to be more proficient. Like, okay, this is great, but you're not at this level yet, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, it can be very it can be negative in a lot of ways, but it can also be very inspiring in a lot of ways. Of,
Yeah,
you know, learn a new skill, learn how to do this a little bit better, spend another 5 years or 2 years or whatever it is getting better, right? Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. I know Jason has something to say.
Yeah, I've been saving them up. I've been saving it up, so I got a wallop. But I wanted to go back to Martin one last time to say, like, Martin, are you satisfied with that treatment? Do you have, or anybody else in the group, like for where we're at in the topics of like onboarding through art, through NFTs, for because I'm gonna pick up Rich from there. I'm gonna stay on that topic, but okay,
I'm satisfied.
Right.
Like,
so you know Yana Schiffer, right? That
yeah, sure.
From EOS Cafe, that cafe.
She's my colleague. Like
She's
we're working together.
She's my old homie from that cafe. Co-founder.
Awesome.
So
you guys are cousins. You didn't know you're cousins in a community way.
I guess so. So we started EOS Cafe because cafe culture is a category of the internet content. Cafe culture explores the arts, the politics, the movements and moments of the people. We know that there's a tea and coffee house in every town and village in the world. There's a tea and coffee house, even in a population of 10 people. There's a public place where like people will gather and read the newspaper and chat about the whatever. That it's been an artifact of humanity, like pre-civilization even, is to gather for the tea, gather for the hot drink. And that while doing that, you talk about whatever's important, whatever it is. And so that's just where we're starting, right? We were trying to onboard with EOS Cafe by leading with cafe culture conversation. And obviously, like in the subdomain of that, there is the values of the economy and what we see in the price action of things, like why is the real estate expensive or why is the real estate cheap? That's a cafe, that could be a cafe culture treatment, but to art. I think that Extra makes an interesting point, just one, an interesting point in that difficulty itself has appeal. Like when you go to Cirque du Soleil, the audience loves to go to Cirque du Soleil because of the excellence, because they're blown away by the difficulty. Like they can't even imagine the work ethic that went into that, and they appreciate that in its form. But though I should say as well, art and science, an artist and a scientist, they're not purely mutually exclusive behaviors or people. In that the artist applies their knowledge of reality in order to create things. And they attain their knowledge of reality by understanding sciences. The truth is, people who self-identify as artists, purely like I'm an artist, are also applying scientific knowledge and skills and building up their scientific mastery in order to make that creative implement. And vice versa too, because experimenters need to be creative for how exactly they're going to tease out the truth by experimentation. Because it's like you have a quandary or you have a mystery. You're a person who self-identifies as a scientist, pure discipline scientist, not an artist, has a mystery to discover. and they have to design experiments to identify the detail, the variable. And in order to do that, they're applying a creative process, right? It's not like there's a fixed, rigid science before science, right? Science itself is its own creation. And so there's sort of an inclusive aspect to take with art, and that where I'd like to steer this is that art and science run parallel along this dimension, in that there's advanced, difficult, impressive stuff, and then there's also rudimentary, beginner, sort of novice and adolescent and kid stuff that people still appreciate. And that I would imagine in the domain of science, some amazingly powerful discoveries are made just sort of by accident on a lark, just like a one-off, like South Park. Like, okay, art, think about art in its simple form and its not difficult form, like South Park. The whole shtick of South Park is that these guys put zero effort into production quality, and that it's like, it's a meme, right? And that are low. There are other examples of cartoons that are popular. It's just a stick figure. It's nothing, right? But the essence of truly great art is expressing yourself. It's an expression, and that, like, I think that it was already touched on that there's the difference between like commercial art, the stuff that comes from the record studios, the stuff that comes from Hollywood big bucks producers, right? That's just formulaic, cookie cutter, a little bit manipulative, toxic in some ways too. Commercial stuff that isn't about the expression of anybody. It's not great art in the sense of like a person is encapsulating a moment in their life or an expression of their experience in an artifact. And I mean, the market chooses to pay for whatever it chooses to pay for. If you pay a high price ticket for Cirque du Soleil because of its difficulty, because of how impressive it is, to each their own. If you pay a high price to go see a preschooler's presentation of some play that lasts 5 minutes, then to each their own, because they want to support the school program or something. That can be real, and there's a real value to real expression out there to be found, even if it's cheap and simple and beginner shit. And there's also, I think, an authenticity to expression that is yet to take its full maturity in the market. There's a discovery process to all this. Where do people go to give, to be seen and to be heard? I mean, those are fundamental human needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of what drives people and what people need, the scientist thinks, oh, a person only needs economy. They need money so they can afford food and shelter, and then they'll be fine. But sociologists and psychologists know for a fact that that's not enough. That in fact, it is a real need, a non-negotiable, essential aspect of life to be seen and to be heard and to listen and to seek and all of that. And that's what great art really is. There's more I could elaborate on into the economy of art, but I'll save it for now and just leave it at that. Put it around to the group.
Well, I had my hand up, so I was I just wanted to interject. If I had a moment, and then I know Extra had his up right after me. I won't be long. I wanted to piggyback on that because as soon as you said gatekeeper, I immediately thought of the project that we're doing on UpX World. First of all, I should mention, I don't think I did, the project UpX World, the second layer video game to the decentralized app Upland. We are so supportive of the idea that the community creates the game, that we are only creating the game using the art of our players and community. It is done through a submission process. Like I said earlier, the Halloween event, the the skins on the cars that will be racing are all non-fungible tokens. The artwork is all sourced directly from the community. Now, interestingly enough, we have things called experiences where, like Cirque du Soleil, right? You go in there, you do one thing, but there's this next kitschy thing. And these are the experiences where you can see that world, that first layer world, right, in a new light. With themes and things like that. One of the things that we're going to be doing is the 1111 gallery, which was created, this experience was created by Johnny Leftwich, who you may know is was a contestant on the, I think it was season 12, Face Off on the Sci-Fi Channel, if any of you have ever seen that. So he is an artist, creator, and special effects makeup artist. He's taking that world of competitive play, right? Competitive, like the tattoos inked, right? All of those type of things. There's even a blown glass one now, which I love, by the way. I never knew I would love blown glass as much, but there was this Christmas special, right? And that competitive nature, that love of art in this digital world, and he's mixing them all together to create what he calls the array, which is exactly what you're talking about. The community votes on each one of these non-fungible tokens. They submit their portfolio, and they're voted further and further up the levels of the 11 levels of the array. And the last one chosen, the winner, they're the ones that will get the opportunity to be created as an NFT collection under the 1111 art gallery. So I thought that as soon as you said gatekeeper, I thought that was pretty, it's a pretty cool concept, I think. And I hope to see it be very successful.
Yeah, enthusiasm has a way of being contagious, in that a person who is in the first place enthusiastic about blown glass art can spread that contagion of like getting other people into it. It's like, in fact, you didn't know how cool this is or something, right? And then it becomes more popular, and that is has always been a mainstay of the economy. Art and performance and entertainment and these types of things have, I mean, originally they were a bit of a economy of poverty, in that like a traveling musician wasn't expecting to become extraordinarily wealthy in most cases, like historically. I mean, the same is true of most types of performance art, or even any type of production art, that the economy that we have today is reflective of the luxury of production, that production in the economy has reached a high level. And so there's enough leisure time among people on average to be looking for entertainment with their leisure time, and also enough purchasing power to pay for entertainment during their leisure time. And so it's come to the point now where people who are in the entertainment industry, in whatever form, whether they're like producing art or performance art or whatever it is, they could reasonably expect to become extraordinarily wealthy. Historically, that's odd, but I don't think we're going back either. I think that the production of our industry will stay this way, that people will continue to have a lot of leisure time to need to find something to do with themselves with. And they'll want to connect to people, and they'll want to discover things, and they'll want to find out what's cool. And they're going to be looking for some powerful expressions, right? That's just it. It's impact. It's like, there are so many different ways to deliver impact, but I wanted to steer us back to our dilemma of onboarding to the key pair, because the thing about it is that it is a real effort for a person who is new to computers in general. Like, I live in Canada, where it's a little bit of a blue collar culture in most places, and that even in the urban centers in Canada, the enthusiasm for computers really is not that strong on average. We're not Singapore, right? We're not Tokyo, we're not San Francisco. the average attitude towards computers is a bit of a reluctance and concern, and there's some embrace. But the average person thinks of it like a headache that they don't understand. It's like, oh, my computer, yeah, it broke down again. Like last week and 2 months before that, and it breaks down a couple times, and it's always a disaster. And I never know what to do about it, and I'm a little bit afraid to depend on it because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So for a person like that to like get into this world, it's real work, and we have to give them a good reason for that. And I think that the main reason is about the agora effect, like be the arena. Agora is the Greek word for gathering place, and the gathering place is the cafe idea. It's like, this is where the expressions are made. You bring yours and you'll see others too. And you get a learning curve once and you've got a utility for the rest of your life, so it's worth the work.
I agree. I see Extra's hand up. It's been there a while, but do you mean to have your hand up?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to address what Jason was talking about, but then of course he took us on another tangent, separate from what we were discussing, because I wanted to at least make a short comment about what he was saying about formulaic art versus formulaic science and so forth, right? And
commercial versus amateur. It's like, who's in it for the soul, who's in it for their own like expression, versus who's applying a commercial angle to the discipline strictly for commercial reasons.
Well, I think you were more referring to like the formulaic realities of scientists versus artists, right?
Yeah, formulaic.
Which was more formulaic.
Well, what I was referring to there was like for film or for song, in that those who are creating movies and music for commercial reasons, exclusively commercial reasons, they tend to be applying a formula that has shown to reach a certain market segment, and it's the largest market segment, and that they've got that sort of distilled down to a formula. But that's really just one example. It's not really the broad pattern I was pointing to of how a person is. Okay, so like film that is for pure expression and is maybe commercial, the commercial success is the third or fourth priority, right? There's a different first priority to the film. It will be less formulaic, right? And that I think is true in a parallel with the sciences, in that if there's a pharmacy company that is applying science in order to maximize profit, then that will be formulaic to an extent that is different than a pharmaceutical company that is trying to disrupt medicine or something, and that their own commercial success might be third or fourth priority, not the first. There'd be a big difference. A kid in a basement coming up with a new medicine or something to interrupt big pharma, that would be different than what big pharma does in the realm of science.
I have to disagree. I don't see that. Having been in both those worlds, I mean, I was an astrophysicist at UCLA at the same time that I was a graphic designer and a graphic artist and managed artists. I don't see them. I guess I don't see that differential, or I don't see that hierarchy.
I'll give an example. One maybe. So if you were making, do you make any food at home?
Yes.
Yeah, just imagine the food you're making. I'm just gonna make one up. Let's say you're making like hamburgers at home or something, and that if you were making them for yourself, if you were making them as an expression for yourself, would you make them the same as if you were making them for commercial purposes?
I think
If
that's a
you're trying to sell
complete
burgers.
red herring.
You're trying to sell burgers, and you're coming up with the recipe for exactly what's going into the patty and how it's prepared. would you make the same burger for commercial purposes as you would for yourself for your own lunch, just because you're in the mood for a burger?
I don't see that to be an analogous situation.
Okay. I don't know. Hey man, I thought I was trying to say the inclusivity thing is that like commercialized platforms have the gatekeeper incentive is, will this reach a large enough audience and will they pay enough for us to platform it? And I mean, that's your home burger. It's like, well, like that home burger is too expensive. It's got fancy stuff on it, and only a certain small portion of the market wants fancy stuff on it. So we just need to put out a generic, regular, plain burger that everyone will buy at for $2 flat, and then we can be profitable. And that's the gatekeeper power on the market for burgers. I'm trying to say that if there is no need for commercialization up front, if there's just participation, people are motivated by their will to expression and to discovery, then the economy takes care of itself. After that, because we have our leisure time, because we have our purchasing power. And I appreciate that. I think that's the big appeal, right? I know that's a big part of the reason why I'm here, and maybe I'm just projecting, but I'm trying to imagine how to invite other people in a way that they'll be attracted. So I'm starting with the same logic that attracted myself, is that we should deliver that. And some of the stuff is amateur hour, just like my home cooking is. When I make lunch for myself, I go to a restaurant every time. But it's a self-expression, okay?
Okay.
Well, to your point, we need to attract better art, better quality, more to the mass market. In that, in a raw numbers way, Cirque du Soleil could sell hundreds of millions of tickets online, maybe. Whereas, like the kids' school performance that you want to support for ethical reasons or something, not likely to sell hundreds of millions of tickets online, just plainly. So I know that my point was working against the grain of that, but I know that that's there too.
Yeah, my concern is that we're still trying to reproduce something that we know from the traditional world. You know, we have the chances right now to really synergize on how we make decision on what's quality or what's, you know, you spoke a little bit about like it's an expression, right? But I think good art always was kind of expressing its zeitgeist, right? And people recognize this years later, that this was kind of the zeitgeist. And making this decision a little bit faster or coming to this consensus, okay, that expresses my feelings right now. I feel I can identify what this artist is doing, is something that we can actually do with the tools that we're having. We couldn't do this before because we had like, you know, all the, like, I have nothing against people that work in galleries and museums. You know, I work with these people and I appreciate their knowledge and their science, as you said, right? But I think like we are in an accelerated time of development due to like Moore's law, et cetera, et cetera. So I think society also needs to accelerate decision-making processes and finding consensus. And having these tools at our disposal right now with DAX, DAOs, you know, decentralized decision-making, that's what I mean. We should utilize this for also like valuing like what is zeitgeist art, whose artists should be funded, who needs to be collected, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't need to reproduce like traditional world. We need to define new ways to collaborate and, you know, build this very technological approach of building society, give it culture and give it soul, you know, so we are balanced. That's the thing what I'm talking about. You know, I don't say, you know, every artist that knows how to use Photoshop or every guy that knows how to do After Effects is an artist. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like we're expressing ourselves more and more and more and more digitally. And there's no really appreciation for internet memes, internet culture, because these things were not scarce. NFTs brought scarcity to this aspect and brought authenticity to it and brought like ownership, and you know, you knew on chain who created what when, and this is something that's groundbreaking in a way. and it needs to be appreciated. And I think that's also, and you talked about onboarding, having these discussions is like, it's a governance process and it's a consensus process, but it's way more tangible to a lot of people because they discuss about something that's touching them. And that's onboarding, you know, bringing more tangible things to blockchain and Web3 than just, hey, we have this new consensus mechanism. It's blah, blah, blah OS, you know, let's all vote, let's buy this token, let's speculate here. That's very abstract. I think we need to define our culture and find ways on, you know, appreciate culture and appreciate quality of culture and define or decide what's zeitgeist and what's expressing our collective mind.
I think that was a point that I didn't get out across NFT. So it was a thought that occurred to me too, and that like life expresses art, and art reflects life, and life reflects art. That there's a symbiosis to this, in that some of the ideas we get come from art, and that we live our lives. We get like a epiphany at times by the experience of that, and that people get moved and they come to realizations and all of that, and that the moment of digital expansion that we have, the moment of digital empowerment that is apparent, comes with its own inspiration for art, right? And that this is a feedback cycle, right? It's nowhere near finished, and that people think that NFTs were a fad, and I've never agreed with that. If people have ever asked me, I've always said that collections are popular. It's not new that collections have always been popular. Baseball card collectors, marble set collectors, Magic the Gathering card game collector, you name it. There are collections galore, and always have been. They're not new. Get a collection of something and it's valuable, the more complete, and right, the more rare the odd items in there. And that this feedback loop that we're in, where art is inspired by it, and it is its network effect is realized through that too, it will become more powerful, is what I think. Is that like the expressions being made will just become more important, more relevant. Okay, so quick background on the network effect. There's a point at which a network becomes a necessary aspect of society, like the telephone. Okay, so the network effect is explained well with the telephone, in that if you are the only person in the world with a telephone, it's completely useless because who can you call if nobody else has one, right? If one other person has a telephone, then it is single unit valuable because there's one person you can call. And then for every new person on the margin who gets a telephone, the network becomes a small exponent more valuable, like 10 to the power of 1.05 or some small exponent. And that as soon as you can reach 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10, whatever, by the time the telephone network reached about 2/3 of the continent, then it became necessary. That last third filled up in 1 year. It was a very slow adoption curve at first, because like the infrastructure and the grid takes time, and the richest places get the infrastructure and the grid first, and they pay for that through their bills and they finance it. And that the first 2/3 took a really long time, but the last third was like boom, because it was, if you can use your phone to call 2/3 of the people, it's too steep of a disadvantage not to have. It's fun. It's like in a de facto way, it's necessary. And I think that eventually at maturity, NFTs will be like that. That right now it's just a bit of a lark and it's not necessary. Doesn't seem like it could be, but I think it could be. And I think eventually it will be. I mean, just as the telephone originally wasn't necessary, they had Morse code. They already had Morse code. You could already send a telegraph. There were ways to communicate, right? They had a postal service. There were ways to communicate that people were used to, and you didn't need a telephone until later, until more than 2/3 of the people had a telephone, and then you needed one. And I mean,
sorry, it's definitely a weird community aspect or society aspect that we can, like, again, we lived with like birds flying with notes to making Morse code, shipping bottles, and it worked, like, weirdly enough, like just sending a guy that nobody in the other end knew with a letter, and they accepted that when the letter came there, even before the postal service. And now, like, yeah, we've seen it with technology, especially my generation, because I grew up where mobiles wasn't spread out. The first mobile, they were around, but the first mobile I remember was my dad's briefcase. There was like 15 kilos of a briefcase that couldn't have clothes in it and a phone. And he was a truck driver and stuff, so it made sense. But then suddenly, a couple of years later, my sister and all her friends had it, but then still my generation didn't. And now even we have phones put down to the level of your kid is able to walk, your kid has a tablet or a phone in their hand. So and they also learn to interact with that technology. Seeing my my ex's little brother grow up in this era, like, he is smarter than most people I know using technology, even though he's not a coder or in that manner, because he's still like, what is he, 8 or 9, but he's more technical than a majority of people that I know today. Like, he gets a phone in his hand, no matter the brand, and he knows how to change themes and word, like, language settings. And so the whole aspect of nobody knew what it was, and nobody cared. My mom can still not figure out her phone. To the next generation, they're embedded into this. So we just need to be sure that we can help them not get TikTok brainwashed and stuff, and actually utilize the technology for something good. Because there is, like, the best information that we've never been more free. And we talked about, like, lost history beforehand, and we had that with Egypt when they burned down a big library in Egypt under war. And here we can put information onto the blockchain. It's not secured forever, maybe, but at least it's not centralized in one place and can be one point of failure, and we lose all the information. So we need to be sure to, like, push the right kind of information out to the next generation, because maybe we already lost half of this generation because of TikTok, but we can push the next information out that can't be deleted again, and it can't be changed when it's out there. So at least people can take that aspect and learn from it, instead of we searching things up today and we get half stories of everything because some of it is already redacted and stuff. Like goparel mentioned that, oh, have you pulled that video down? If that has been on the blockchain, no matter how that conversation went out, it's part of history. But now they got asked to pull it down, and of course, because they're good people, they're probably going to do it. But then, like, that part of it, what's said in there should be part of something that we others could listen to and then make the decisions from. It's like, again, with with governments and stuff, they always say that everyone that has something to hide is a criminal, but they all use classified documents. So yeah, a little side note, but yeah, it all makes sense in its all. So
that's very intelligent. It's very smart, and that, like, this is a way to draw an attractive element in the center of our network, in that this is a place where people will visit to get information, and in some way that is advantaged, right? In that there's a redundancy to its method of delivery, right? It's got some resilience based on that redundancy, and it strikes a good balance of providing redundancy without being overly wasteful in the way of the transaction friction. There's a real balance in that. I feel as though it's one of those sort of funny things about people, that the best technology usually doesn't win. In reality, like there's some reason or other, there's some combination of reasons why, but EOS is just a shining example of that, because I feel like EOS really gets the balance right, and arguably is the best technology in the space, but the market has chosen other things for other reasons. For now, just for now, like everything changes. Nothing is static, especially not at our current moment.
Yeah. Again, myself personally, I didn't give EOS a chance for the majority because of all the backlash of the publicity, and I didn't know that I was working on a EOS blockchain when I first entered Wax. It was first when I got a little more into it, also because the onboarding process at the time was the cloud wallet, which was, again, boom, you were in, and then you didn't need to think about what you actually were doing with all those processes. But then I realized, again, it was built on the EOSIO chain. And then, again, being around crypto for so long, seeing all those projects trying to do all that and diving into their technology, and just it can't scale to those levels. And nobody seemed to understand what I was going at, even when talking to the old guys, Ethereum guys, and other network guys, and trying to show them some of this. They still don't understand. And it's weird to me, because I'm a tech guy. Again, if I find a technology that can do better than EOS and Wax and stuff tomorrow, I'm over there playing around, but that don't mean I'm not here anymore. But I will be there because I'm gonna check that out. And it's just we've seen it, like many of the good projects out there has not gotten the success they should have, but that also don't mean that they should give up. Like we saw it in the Betamax VHH era. Betamax had way better video and audio quality than VHH, and the same with DVDs and Minidisc. Minidisc was way more compact, had actually way better quality, but DVDs took over, and then Blu-ray and HD. And HD was way better and a way smaller size format, but the Blu-ray took over. But in that era, it's hard to say, and it's actually something that people don't want to talk about. But one of the reasons that one of my side projects is blowjobtokens.org, because that the one thing that all those industries, why that took over, was because they got the porn industry to look into it. Non-safe for work content, adult content, took over VHH, took over DVDs, took over Blu-ray. That was why they succeeded. I'm not saying that we need to make this a Pornhub chain, but building stuff and onboarding those people, because those people bring in the masses, and those people has people with money, those people have connections. I cannot specify this enough, how much connected non-safe for work artists and performers are in general. You would not believe how many people they know in all kind of areas. And it has taken over and it's changed the world 4 times. Why are nobody in crypto making sure we can do it again?
I agree with that point. Actually, Extra and I had a very special, elaborate tangent exploration about making EOS more sexy, one way or another. that is a form of expression that's so important, and that it's so important. It, like when I was saying that sociologists and psychologists know that it is a need for a person in life to be seen and be heard and to make discoveries and to listen and to learn and all that. This is it. This is part of it, in that these sexual expressions are extremely powerful and extremely desirable, and the internet moves like a pack towards that. There's so much to explore in it, and but there's also, I think the discussion should be about how to do it correctly, how to optimize, because I'll share the example of Frank Talk, the social media, if you guys know the story. Do you guys know about Frank Talk? There was a censorship resistant social media attempt that lasted all of about 3 hours before the guy started censoring things, because he realized what's out there. He was like, yeah, he wanted to get his opinion out there. He felt like he was getting bottled up and stifled. He's like, yeah, I want to get my opinion out there. So I'm going to start a social media that is censorship free. Yeah, somebody's got to go. Who's got to go? Okay, so yeah, he tried to make it censorship free, and then he got flooded with all kinds of content that she was surprised by, let's say. And so he closed the gates and he shut it down, and it became a failure overnight, because like the whole onboarding effort was no censorship, and then he changed the recipe right away. It was a spectacular failure. But how to do it correctly, how to do it best, because there's a real danger in this to avoid.
There definitely is, and even like Minds.com, which did kind of the same, or Gabs, which tried to do kind of the same, or like there has been many attempts for trying to do a censorship-resistant social media platform. But as long as you do that, if you put a company or an entity behind that, some kind of government will hunt you down and kill you if you don't do what they say, if you put that up there. We can look at our crypto history and look at Rob Aldrich. Who was Rob Aldrich? He was the creator of the website Silk Road. Did Rob Aldrich ever sell weapons, drugs, or otherwise? No. He allowed a platform that people could put up whatever they wanted on. We can see the same thing with people that ran Pirate Bay. Did the people that ran Pirate Bay ever download, upload, or share illegal content? No, they didn't. They hosted a gateway platform, a search engine, to allow others to see where to get that, exactly like Rob Aldrich. But Rob Aldrich is still in prison. The founders of Pirate Bay is running, Spotify, Netflix, and those kinds of medias today. So in the same aspect, some did it right, some did it wrong, because they got taken out because of the amount of things that were involved. Some was media content and copyrights, some was drugs, weapons, and total freedom. There was also videos on there, like normal videos. You could buy everything. It was eBay or Amazon for everything. But it got also misused, because we have a human greed factor in the world, and people are greedy. They are contextualized into a world where everything needs to be about profit or about something. So they mostly get broken at some point and go rogue. And that happens for even people like in a good space where they're trying to make something good, and then they either get into a lot of power or a lot of money, and then they corrupt. Like we've seen it so many times, and it's a really hard task to find a way to perfectize this or make it work in general. And we know that for DAO systems, because if you open up all the gates to a DAO too fast, you end up having whales coming in or multi-accounts coming in and taking over, and everything is corrupted. And so it's really hard. Yeah. I need to fastly go and call some food because it's almost dinner time. So I will be here, but muted.
Cool. We're in like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're rock stars. We're here forever. Rock on.
I know.
I just said
Wait
one
for-
thing.
Yeah.
It was interesting because Jason said something I always said, collector's gonna collect. That's, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, right? The NFT market in 2021 peaked at 11.6 billion US dollars. That didn't happen with the art, of people. Right, it's a little people like the Garbage Pail Kids, the ultra rare collections, the comic book strips that are on non-fungible tokens that appeal to the collector in, I want to say, all of us. I mean, even if you like switching up your gum, you're collecting gum at that point, right? You got 9 gums in your car because you enjoy the different complexities of each one of those things. A cook, you were talking, Jason, about being a cook, and I love to cook. So what do I collect? Spices, right? I try each one of these spices, and I'm not getting that $85 spice, right? Like saffron, like every day, right? I'm gonna get the smaller stuff to support a spice that's a little less expensive. This has gone right off the rails. I'll bring it right back. But the point is, collectors are always going to collect. I've been collecting comic books my whole life. I've been collecting card packs, dice. I go to my comic book store. I have a regular pull order, and so I don't see NFTs going anywhere, because what better way than to know? Because if you are a collector, if you do collect comic books, you're gonna keep those in the plastic bag. You're gonna be sealed. They're in a box. I have a box of comic books somewhere I won't touch to read, right? So the fact that they're this immutable asset, this thing you get to have forever that's not so costly, that's still able to be displayed, that you can still showcase on your phone. Because let's face it, I mean, sure, computers didn't exist when I was a kid, and I remember laser discs were this big when I rented them from Fry's. But nowadays everyone's on their phone, everyone's showing the pictures of the kids on their phone, the full videos, TikToks, what they're eating. So it just makes sense to have non-fungible tokens these days, to own the asset, to physically own the asset, right? But to be able to display it in a virtual setting. So I don't see non-fungible. I say it all the time. And I think I saw it on South Park, and I know a couple of other things. NFTs are always the butt of the joke, but they're always talking about them.
And you know that means we're onto something, right? Because how's that expression go? First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they attack you, and then you win. And if there's ridicule out there, then that's just phase 1, and it means that we're having impact, right? It's recognized out there. It's a thing.
Oh yeah, it's the television all over again. Television, ridiculous.
One question, I mean, or not a question. I gotta go in like 15 minutes, I think.
Sure.
So, like, I like the conversation, but we should not spend too much time on like preaching to the choir. I think we all kind of like know the purpose, or you know the value proposition of why we're here and what we're doing. And I think what I would like to talk about in the next 50 minutes is like, what is the purpose of these calls, what we're going to do next week, and how we're going to organize ourselves.
Yeah, I'm going to follow your lead. If we see that the Alien Worlds candidates and their communities have other ways to incentivize themselves and aren't really into the fractal governance, like, we'll give it a nice media pitch. But the second most obvious or more obvious way to use sort of a respect token is exactly what you were saying, Martin. So I think it would be, look who's on this call. It's not really people going for governance. It's content creators and you guys. So if we could use this then for that process as curators to, as a community, put out respect for what we think is valuable, that might be the right kind of pivot. Because I've always tried to lure people in to have governance and consensus games, but it's not the majority of people that are excited about that, right? So what is this fractally process? What can it serve? Which communities can it serve best, right? So I'm open to whoever's going to find value in it. And if that's more of the decentralized curation to reward artists and their art, then that's just like EOS DAC, right? We had all the tools and they made a game to get us into DAOs. Well, the community supporting this game, or what's going to make the game and what has made the game exciting. It's only because of the NFT drops and the communities have kept it going is why people are engaged. So so I think that's what I would think. Let's use this for the communities that are going to find it meaningful.
Yeah, I think that you have to meet people where they're at, right? Like there's maybe the most popular cafe culture forum is on a website called straightdope.com, where it's straightdope/cafe. And that was one of our starting points, like in our new version of that cafe, is that we're going to take our token economic model there and show it to people and see if they get it, if they like it, because what we had proposed was sort of an elaborate virtuous cycle of supporting a local venue that you like to support, like a independent place, right? And giving them an advantage on their point of sale in their way of treasury management, because most independent coffee places, coffee shops, and tea houses, they actually pay a payment processor, right, at their point of sale. And that our feeling was that they'd be better off using stable coins and using tokens that we've created with lower transaction fees and in a way that they can actually benefit from the inflation of. And this just came up yesterday when I was talking with Josh and Eric and Dan at the Go Fractally team. And what we had said is that the large platforms that we're competing with today, social media platforms, the places who have become the gathering place of the internet. Like there's an argument that Twitter is the new public square. So maybe Twitter should be like considered a public utility or something, because it's like an essential aspect of free speech. It's so political. Maybe, I don't know. But the point about Twitter is that it's the gathering place, right? It is the agora. And that's what we want to be. And the thing about it is that they are free to use. A person visits them and there is almost no friction. There's almost no learning curve, and there is no cost. And so that's what we're up against competition wise. And I think in the domain of token economics, there is a possible pathway to being better than free if we can actively pay people for their participation. If their contribution to consensus, this is just said about block rewards, is that a contribution to consensus is valuable to the network, to the state of the network. And that if a person, by participating, contributes to the consensus on the network, that we can reward them for that, and that their use of it, they can access the same things. We can be that agora, we could be like what Twitter is, sort of, and be better than free. I think that should be the goal. That should be part of the vision. To understand that, to make it worthwhile for people to do the work and get up the learning curve, that yeah, we're competing against something that has no learning curve, no friction, no barrier, and no cost. We have to be better than that. We can be. We will depend on inflation for that. Token economics depend on the fact that the token supply is something that's within our control, and that the token supply is the essence of where token economics begin. The consensus protocol, the value of the consensus, is the beginning of the logic for that. And Twitter has a way of wandering. I mean, other social media has a way of wandering. It doesn't serve a purpose in particular that I can see beyond just rudimentary connection. Just connection. In whatever direction you want to use it for, it doesn't matter. Right? So they have no consensus. There's no need for a consensus on Twitter. There's no need for consensus on Facebook. right? They're not creating those products, so they have no token economy. I think that it shoehorns us a little bit into turning a product, turning our network and our participants into a collectivized product. Maybe I'll just stop there.
Well, to start with, we have, we have things that we haven't had before, right? We've got funds. We have a consensus mechanism where we're able to give funds for people just showing up to come to consensus, and we have communities, right? And then we have artists. So this started with trying to come to consensus of what have you done to, for Alien Worlds in the last week, right? So there is a gamification where we can, in the Fractally process, have different teams. So each community can have a team. So it kind of has this frenemy effect where each collection, when you come up for this consensus 1 hour meeting, like you're saying, oh, this meeting's going really long. Well, the cool thing about the Go Fractally process, it's just an hour. It's very concise. It's only 3 minutes of what you've done. There's 20 minutes for us to all explain in groups of 6 what we've done, and then 20 minutes to come to consensus. If you don't come to consensus, you don't get any Trillium. So we have a big pool of Trillium. We can have different groups, and the reason for the different teams or groups, if you get whatever ranking you get, that comes back to your group, and then your group can decide how you use those funds or that respect. So it's really a respect system. So the respect token you get non-transferable, builds up respect, and everyone gets some Trillium. So I'm, whoever sees value in that, and if it's our communities and artist communities, and there's a crossover because we've done a job to bring these NFTs into Alien Worlds, fantastic. So yeah, we haven't had funds before, and we haven't had a concise system to come to consensus. So yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah, see, like the logic of any asset needs a cycle of redemption, in that in order to be willing to use an asset as a barter, like to receive it, let's say I just got something for sale, it doesn't matter what I'm selling, and you come along and you say, I don't have enough cash, but I've got this other item, I'll trade you. And what I would think about is, well, then what am I going to do with that other item? Because I have to now sell that, right? I have to do something with that. And that a good liquid sort of technology of money is one that has a very clear cycle of redemption, in that you always know there's somebody who will be willing to buy it, always. No matter what station in the network you are, there is somebody else in the network that you can pass it along to. And that money, in that way, money is, strictly speaking, a social reality. And it goes to the logic of, it's a social contract. It's part of the social contract that we know this is the thing that somebody else, they can take it from me too. Doesn't matter who I take it from, I can always use it to purchase whatever else. And for a thing like Trillium, all you really need are sort of like 2 or 3 relay points, in that there's some other third party, maybe it's Binance, or maybe it's Tron, or maybe it's like Shelbyville or something, like some frenemy implement. By the way, the frenemy idea is brilliant. You need to run with that, because that's the essence of game and sport and competition. And that, like, at the end of the game, you shake your opponent's hand even after you just kick their ass, because you have respect. It's like, thank you for the good game, right? Thank you for the good game. It's frenemy stuff. It's very attractive. And that, the Simpsons analogy with Shelbyville, right? As soon as you mention it, the whole town rallies. There are whole town rivalries. I live in Calgary, where if Edmonton does something cool, everyone in Calgary will pay whatever it costs to one up them. Gotta go. Good stuff. I hope to pick it up again.
Yeah, are we doing this again next week? That's kind of the question.
Every week,
Okay.
almost 4 years.
Okay. One thing to your thing, comparing Twitter and Facebook and these kind of things. I think on these platforms, consensus doesn't matter.
Not at all.
Because it can be manipulated. So there's no value in the consensus that people find there. Everything is botted. Opinion is like manipulated there. I think with the process that we're trying to work with, that's a consensus that has actually some value, and on this value we can build. And to your barter analogy, I think like what we're not bartering at this point. What we're trying to achieve, like with like, let's say, curating what we're gonna buy, it's like collective ownership. What does our planet want to own? If we say every week we have, let's say, 1,000 trillion or whatever it is to buy something, then I can say, for this 1,000, I'm going to buy this. And you can say, no, I want to buy this. No, I'm going to buy this. At the end of this process, we would have like one person that wins and says, okay, I'm going to buy this. And that comes in the collection of the planet. He doesn't own this by himself. So he doesn't need to really think about like, do I buy this because I can extract value about it later because I can barter it against? It's like more or less like we're designing the culture and the look of our planet and what we are buying, and maybe it's another thing that I want to learn for next week. Maybe I really want to learn more about the submission process for UPX World. You mentioned that artists can submit their work in order to be chosen for going up for sale. That's something that I need to learn more about. Maybe we can learn something from there, because there are multiple ways how we can find consensus on curating content or art or whatever it is, or NFTs or what we purchase. We need to first learn and then implement our processes, and maybe have examples for other planets that they can do it. Maybe they can also have their kind of ways in order to shape their collection or their collective ownership. One thing that I also need to learn is like, is this kind of a legal? So legally, we have a problem right now that we can't distribute funds. How is it when we use our collective funds, the budget, to collectively buy art? Then it doesn't, we just transfer the trillion that's already allocated to us, and we just convert it into something that we purchase collectively. That's something that I need to learn from a legal perspective. This would fly. If it doesn't fly, and it's also a show breaker, then we can stop this conversation, or I can stop my my approach.
Well, and there's two things too. The the 1 hour Fractally meetup. I got a grant from Galactic Hubs that wants me to distribute Trillium for people coming to consensus, right? And just following that process, we're just ranking contributions of any type. So that's kind of aside from the planet. So that's one thing where we have a pot that's like, we can just all, come for an hour meeting and say whose conversation was the best during the meeting. So it's we can figure out that, whatever way. The more important point that you made up is, what do we do on planets? That's next step. So we can't, straight from our accounts, if all of us right here were elected to a planet, we just can't transfer those funds. We need then to set up a DAO, right? And then that DAO needs, say if we're wanting to pay in some other currency, then we need something terrestrial to kind of protect ourselves. And even in between that, we might all want to be part of that DAO as, hey, this is my legal body. So it's kind of weird that we need all this, real world liability, but it's just the truth. So I think that not rewarding participation means directly, we just can't, 5 of us sign and that pot's there and it just goes directly to something. We need a DAO as a buffer, and then we need probably a service provider in between, and then we're fine. We just need to not just do the vote buying, just say, oh, this money comes here, we're just distributing it to who voted for us, or we're just giving it to ourselves, right? So there's a pathway for that. It's going to take us a week or two or a little bit of time just to set that up. And then the next steps is proposals. So 5 of us might come out for a proposal. So then maybe we use this fractally process just to vote amongst our group to say, out of this proposals, we all gave our proposals, which one has the most respect, and use some sort of some sort of process where we can be transparent to the people that voted us in of how we came into that decision. Right? Or we could use consortium or different types of things. But I think that's the model. The the fun part is the ideas we already have, right? It's just there's going to be a little bit of friction just to get that going, and haven't paved the way for us, you know what I mean, in a true decentralized fashion. They've given us the terms and said, hey, go figure it out. So I'm thinking that, you know, every planet's going to be the same, so there has to be some sort of coming together with everyone that's elected to go. Not each one of us have to figure out the right, you know, DAO structure and legal structure, and how does that change? These elections are changing every week. How do we have, you know, some devs in the back say, oh, if you're elected now, you're on the multi-sig, right? And then how does that terrestrial company, is that the same people? Does that change? You know what I mean? Because a week turnover to have a director or someone in charge of that, is that maybe something we use this fractally process for, that the community comes together and says, who do we trust as a terrestrial company, as a service provider? Or is it just separate than us, right? Or do we just use a third party that we trust? They take a fee and it's done. So yeah, that's all I know.
Well, I guess we will find out more next week. Great conversation, guys. I also got to go now.
Yeah, I'm up against, I got 2 more minutes myself. I can give, if you guys want to stick on and give someone else permissions. See you, Martin. That was awesome.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Nice meeting you all. I gotta get back to my job. All right.
Yeah, same
It's
here.
a pleasure to see you guys next week. Lisa, I am actually talking to you on the phone, so I'll be talking to you in another 5 seconds. Jason, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Extra.
Yeah, have a nice one, everyone. See you next week.
Danish.
Thanks
Maybe
so
I'll
much,
see you on the
Danish.
chill hour, Danish again. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, definitely on Twitter in a little while.
Awesome. Extra are still there. Awesome, as always. Lisa, thanks so much.
Yeah, you're booked for Tuesday. See
Perfect.
you then.
That's awesome. Great. I'll post this later today, guys.
Okay.
Adios.
Thanks. Bye.